Ladies, gentlemen, and everyone else in that wonderful technical rainbow in between, welcome to tonight's coverage of the AML. I am Winterbirdie, and joining me on my left is the Orion. How you doing tonight, Orion?
Doing pretty good. Pretty excited to see some hopefully quality League of Legends here in the AML league. Pretty excited to see two teams that are currently fighting to be towards the top of their individual league, I would say, or their group, I would say, as we are already into the ban phase here. We're seeing Talia banned away from Indigo and Smolder banned away from the blue side. The little dragon is still fairly strong, even though he's received some nerfs, sorry, so pretty glad to see it to be gone.
Yeah, not too surprising to see one banned away. Indigo right now sitting on 3-1 overall in their match record, whereas Definite Not Aether sitting on 2-2. So like you said, both these teams kind of fighting for that top roster spot, looking to try and solidify that top 4 position as we get into the later half of the split, move towards that playoff contentions, try and lock in those spots. And as the draft continues, we've got Vi, Gwen, and Lucian all taken away. Pretty, I'm not going to say sparse bans, but pretty all over the map. No real focus on one particular position, but Indigo paying that red side tax with the Smolder and the Maokai. So Definitely Not Aether have a lot of potential options for a really strong first pick here.
Yeah, they really do. It's the unfortunate thing about Red Side right now. There's a lot of champions that are very, very strong in the current meta, so you kind of have to ban away a lot of those things, but you unfortunately have another champion that is still very strong in the Varus, and it is a bit of a takeaway from Indigo. Their ADC Vanilla has been playing a lot of Varus so far in a lot of their matches, been seeing a lot of success. So definitely not surprised by that immediate takeaway, especially because Definite Not Aether is using a sub as their ADC for tonight, so trying to get him on the most comfortable ADC that he can is going to be very, very strong for them tonight.
Yeah, Varus also pretty strong in the meta right now with the Terminus changes. He's been seeing a lot of love with all of his build versatility and with just the items that he can abuse that against his Terminus combination. Lethality as well. And another champion that can abuse items pretty damn well in this new season is that Volley Bear that Indigo are going to grab for themselves alongside the Kai'Sa.
Not only that, but also the buff that it got on this patch with the Q movement speed increase definitely makes it a very, very strong jungler currently. And even top laner has been seeing both played in both roles fairly often. So with the Kai'Sa pairing, it does kind of alleviate a little bit in terms of what exactly they are doing in the draft. So it doesn't give away a whole lot of information, but Bard being picked up here for the support for Definite Aether. Definitely a champion that he's fairly comfortable on in solo queue especially, so not surprised by him picking it up. It is also a fairly strong champion currently in the meta as well, with Bloodsong and a couple other items being very strong for him as well. So not super surprised so far by a lot of the picks coming through. I'm a little curious to see what the direction that Definite Aether goes in. I wonder if they'll take a read and saying, hey, like maybe the Volley Bear specifically more top lane or jungle. I mean, to be honest, it's kind of hard to say at this very moment, so they might go with a little bit of a more of a generic pick, I would say, instead of something that's super exact. Instead, they're going to go with their mid laner with the Akali. It is also another fairly direct takeaway from Indigo's mid laner. He's also been playing a lot of Akali this season, and definitely having a lot of success on that champion as well. So far, I mean, Definite Aether picking things that are definitely good for themselves, as well as taking away from Indigo's success.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said about focusing on comfort in a draft as opposed to just playing like, oh, what exactly is the strongest champion you could possibly play in the meta right now? Like you said with that Bard and Akali, picking up these comfort picks that these players know really well in terms of champions. But on the other side for Indigo, Kai'Sa Nautilus is a hell of a strong lane combo. Yeah. Volley Bear got buffed on the patch, can use items really well. So it feels like Indigo really is playing towards what do we have that's strong that we can play right now. As we get into the second half of the bans here, Brandon Poppy really focusing down that jungle pool, which to me at least says that Volley Bear might dip into the jungle, whereas Aether are going to be taking away the play, and I would have to assume probably another mid laner try and protect this Akali that little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely makes sense. I mean, obviously, there's Akali already struggles a little bit in most of her matchups in the mid lane, just due to the nature of the champion, but there's definitely a lot of champions that kind of beat her up a little bit better, like the Azir, like the Hui, so I definitely do like these options coming through. And if you are Indigo, I would imagine you're probably going to pick your mid laner on 4. You already see the Akali. You don't want to give away the flex going for the Volley Bear for top or jungle here, so I would imagine it's some form of a mid laner option. Theoretically, I guess it could technically be top or jungle, but then you're kind of just giving away that flex option. So gonna go with safe blind here with the Ahri, a little bit more playmaking as well. The ability to get on top of the Varus and the Bard relatively easy, and the follow-up off of Nautilus and Volley Bear going through definitely makes a lot of sense. Their composition right now is very tailored to just going in and being aggressive, so having a champion like Ahri will definitely help a lot.
Yeah, plenty of dive for this composition already. If they do want to send that Volibear up top side, I wouldn't be shocked if we saw something like a Nocturne, a Vi, a Lee Sin. Vi is on the ban list, obviously, but something that can dive into the backline and be aggressive. Wukong, another one of those options, and maybe a takeaway for Definite on Aether here. They're going to grab that one up for the jungle. Again, just a strong champion on the meta right now. Works really well. The 2 Cyclones that he gets to pop out, and then 2 more with the clone as well. He does a lot of work in team fights and should provide a little bit of extra added safety for all of the dive that is coming in to this Varus, to this Bard. And I'm a little bit wondering how this Akali is going to perform with all of this dive coming into her team, as Akali is usually a champion that wants to be diving into the backline of the enemy team. And with no backline to speak of so far, as Kai'Sa and Ahri really are going to be up there in the weeds with the rest of the team, I'm interested to see how they're going to actually pilot this Akali in the team fights.
Yeah, I'm a little curious to see as well, especially because, like you said, I mean, diving into the back line, but also, I mean, just like in the chaos of a team fight, Akali likes to just dip into a shroud and kind of just sit there and try to poke and pry with her damage, but Nautilus can very easily just point and click her with both the auto attack and the ultimate and really make it hard for the Akali to play some of these team fights, because you also have the follow-up CC from the Charm, from Kai'Sa diving forward with the W with a True Sight, revealing the Akali and the shroud. So definitely gonna be very exciting to see kind of how the team fight does play out for both these teams, really, because both these teams are going to have fairly explosive team fights coming through. I think definitely Aether's composition can be a little bit slower with their composition, especially if they go like more of a poke Varus, but if it is more of the poke Varus angle, it'll be up to Indigo to really pull the trigger early on in these fights, not let them get themselves get poked out, because their composition is still fairly short range in terms of their ability to start these fights in particular. But if they're able to get on top of just about anybody, they should be able to shred right through them, as they don't really have a great way to peel the engage from Indigo.
Yeah, Indigo and definitely not Aether here really do have some very like consistent and good ideas with their drafts going on here. Like Indigo, you can see all of these champions are built on dive, dive, dive. The Aatrox, the Ahri, the Kai'Sa, all just going to be moving into that backline and dealing a ton of damage, whereas Volibear and Nautilus going to bring up a lot of that engage. And definitely not Aether have a little bit more of a move back and peel sort of team fight. You have that Bard and Wukong who can act as pseudo frontliners. Bard maybe not the best frontliner in this case, but they do have an Ornn to back that up, and Bard is really, really great at peel. The Tempered Fate's going to do so much work at making sure Kai'Sa can't find a good angle, Ahri can't find a good angle, and as long as you can protect this Varus and allow Kali to exist in that backline, throw some chaos into that Kai'Sa and Ahri, it could definitely bring up a lot of success for Definite Aether, but I do think Indigo's is just that slight bit easier to execute on.
Yeah, and it's always like the added benefits, right, in terms of like looking at compositions where theoretically both these compositions could very easily work depending on who's piloting them. But oftentimes when you look at seeing like, okay, like who actually quote unquote won draft, a very easy way to look at it, be like, okay, which one's easier to play? And you look at like Nautilus coming through the point and click, Volibear point and click. Once they're knocked out, the RA charm is very easy to land. The ability for them to mow through one particular target and go from there is much easier on Indigo's side. But I think also just in terms of like the craziness that can happen with a team fight when you have champions like Wukong, like Akali, can cause a lot of disruption and cause things to be pretty hectic when they're diving forward. So plans can change very, very quickly in team fights. So it's going to be up to both these teams to be very, I guess, exact with their execution, not making a whole lot of mistakes, because either team can get very easily punished. Like, for example, if Indigo goes too deep, or if they just miss their engage, they can run out of gas incredibly quickly, especially with the Volibear and the Nautilus. But for Definite Aether, if they get caught out and any one of them is out of position, except for maybe the Ornn, their composition can very easily get blasted.
Yeah, a lot of potential scraps here early on in the game. I want to see Indigo making early moves on the map, use that Nautilus Volibear priority, and make something happen. We're going to take a short break, but before we do, I would just want to give one quick shout out to one of our sponsors for tonight, Coachify.gg. Aegis Esports League of Legends is sponsored by Coachify.gg for our Winter 2024 split. Coachify.gg provides tools for esports coaches to manage their teams and players while also finding new students. You can click the panel located below the stream to check out their website for more information. And like I said, we're going to take a short break while we wait to get loaded onto Summoners for game 1 of Definite Not Aether versus Indigo. Don't go anywhere.
clouds move closer, but with a deeper sweat. Oh, beneath them we look on. When they part comes the hatred they bring. Lost in the dark, we've come so far.
Welcome back, everybody. We're here on the Rift for game 1 of Definite Not Aether versus Indigo.
Yep, both teams are, I would say fairly standard across the board. Nothing really too crazy going on. Kind of curious to see a couple of rune choices here coming through for both these teams. We do see ultimate split up for the orange, so potentially looking for those cheeky little ignite plays at level 6 when you can get the what's your ultimate with all the damage. No TP actually from Fun Size, going with the Ignite, trying to get as aggressive as he possibly can onto his lane opponent here, who has opted into the TP. And we also have a little bit more of I guess, the aggressiveness in the bot lane with the Halo Blades from the Kaisa. I'm a little curious to see if he'll be going the more traditional build, I would say, nowadays, which is the Eclipse build into some AP version. Definitely been seeing a lot of rise, honestly a lot of damage coming through from that champion right now in the current scheme of the game. So curious to see if that is what it will end up being. As we do see a bit of face check here from Dunsey, is able to get a bit of a ward here for free, almost able to get the ward from Not In My House and MKS, but so far everything's pretty standard.
Yeah, just a little bit of extra vision for the bottom lane of Indigo. It might actually walk into this. As a nice little fun from MKS. Dunsey actually wants to flash forward, get aggressive on it. They're going to drop the Ignite after the cleanse comes through. Not In My House getting very, very low. Going to get that plasma proc onto him. Now MKS is the target. They're doing a little bit of extra damage to him. That 5th plasma proc, but suddenly Kaisa, the no ADC, the 1-inch trouble. Not In My House gets that first blood. Dunsey now the 1 in trouble. Doesn't have a flash to his name. Varus flashes forward. It's a double kill for the bottom lane of Definite Not Aether.
And a huge start from the bot lane. We mentioned the sub ADC, as well as, honestly, we forgot to mention a sub support as well. So not even the traditional bot lane here from Definite Not Aether, able to pick up the double kill. And honestly, it's off the back of we saw the initial stun coming through from MKS there on the double stun. And then Dunsey was like, you know what, we're just going to send it. We're going in, full send there onto the bot lane. And unfortunately, ended up backfiring on them. I think the initial play, I kind of like the initial attempt where they got the cleanse out for free. But once the hook hits onto the Bard, they unfortunately just kind of ran out of damage, and Vanilla just stayed way too close for the trade, and unfortunately ended up biting the dust first and able to chase after the Nautilus thereafter. So huge start here for the bot lane of Definite Not Aether. Of course, it is still just the very beginning of the game, so the game won't change in terms of all that much, but a very early Vamp Scepter from Not In My House will certainly help with a lot of the early trades.
Yeah, you were even mentioning, as we were talking about the rune choices, the Halo Blades for Kaisa, really good for those quick early game trades, but if you extend the trade to the point where Lethal Tempo is a fully stacked, you're going to be really far behind in terms of value, and Not In My House, as we saw, had that Lethal Tempo stacked and was ready to play aggressive as soon as all those resources were burned.
Nice trade.
Fun Size gets aggressive on the John there in the mid lane, do a little bit of extra damage to that Ahri. It is electrocuted for both of these laners, but like you said, that Ignite for the Akali, I think will probably keep John in a bit more a passive state in this laning phase.
But it does look like Lipstill actually is going to make a visit here into the mid lane. Fun Size is fairly extended.
Pistol coming in forward with the stun. They do have the Shroud. The stun going to go onto a minion, so they don't have that for the Akali when she jumps out of the Shroud. Maybe he can look for a kill here onto John, but it's just going to start walking away. If Oliver onto that chase,
here comes the team.
That water walking, but the team is coming. Avengers assemble. Mark is coming in, looking to get that dash in. Little Pistol actually takes a tower shot. Very, very dangerous here. Bard Portal comes through. Can MKS find the stun? Oh, double flash! Perfectly responded by the mid jungle of Indigo, but 2 flashes for 1. You got to be happy with that.
They're not done yet. They're not done yet.
Fun Size has found Little Pistol here. He's going to get that shield onto himself. The electrocute comes through too quickly. Fun Size finds one. Now John the 1 in trouble. Doesn't have that flash. So with the double buffs on the Akali, it's 2 free kills for Fun Size.
And a huge start here. Obviously, the 2-for-2 kill in the bot lane was kind of the okay. Now we actually feel really good about ourselves. But now another kill on top, and they're not stopping yet. Kazi
has to be careful here. A nice dash away from that dash from Wukong. Now we got more action actually in the bottom side. Is Not In My House getting engaged on. Doesn't get that full plasma proc, so he's probably feeling okay. But Dunsey and Vanilla trying to take advantage of this Varus on his lonesome, but That wave is pretty big and is going to be pushing into the Kai'Sa Nautilus.
I mean, they're staying though. Like they want to put Cassie in the dirt.
Yeah, he's going to get knocked up, stepped a little bit too far forward, has that flash, but I do not think he's even going to bother to use it. Just going to look to try and trade back onto Bang, but he can't find the damage. Merc picks up his first.
Yeah, I mean, of course, we talked about, obviously, the fact that the Varus in the bottom lane is getting very heavily punished here. He cannot walk up to that lane whatsoever, so he will fall down a lot of CS here, just in terms of how the wave currently is, but definite not Aether, making a lot of plays on the map. And so far, when you are the team that is the lower part of the standings, you kind of have to make some crazy things happen. We've seen the Bard rooms for MKS doing a lot of work so far in this game and trying to apply as much pressure as they possibly can onto Indigo here, and so far it's working. There is a current play happening onto the grubs. We do see Lil Pistol is currently already got one grub taken away. No real anyone, I guess, in terms of like looking to make a play over there, but overall it is still a win here for Indigo, even though they haven't really gotten a lot of wins so far, so definitely a nice little thing to see for them.
Yeah, they managed to get something back, but for definitely not Aether especially, I think in this game, you're playing with a couple of people in their off roles. You have that substitute and you're not playing with your main roster. So I think for them, it's especially important that they introduce a little bit more chaos onto the map, because this Indigo squad is going to be a little bit more practiced together. As
hook landing.
House getting engaged on. There's that plasma proc, force the flash out of the Varus. The Ignite comes down. He's just going to cleanse it away, not feel too threatened just yet. And they were doing the drag, which means MKS and Merc are here for the collapse. They're going to portal in. Vanilla ADC still has no flash. The heal already burned. This Kai'Sa should just die. It looks like they're going to try and actually give it over to Varus, but a nice sidestep from Vanilla ADC will force Merc to grab that one, and now the rest of Indigo are coming down. MKS is going to get punished, and Merc now the one in trouble. Stuck in the Alkavan is going
fun size.
Flash over, trying to get aggressive in. Has that clone out. He'll actually be able to make it out in time. Don't see his ignited and ticking away, and Fun Size will grab that one. Second proc of that perfect execution still hung on to. Gonna finally use it on the Little Pistol. Look for the burst, look for the damage. The Collie has the burst and finds another double kill for herself.
And I think that's just a little disrespectful there from Dunsey and Vanilla ADC. I'm not exactly sure if they knew what was happening with the dragon, but they recognized, okay, not in my house, a little bit by himself. We can maybe look for a play on top of him. But with them doing the drag, like we mentioned, they were able to just kind of rotate over, get those two initial kills. But then they decided to roam down John, and he was there on the roam first. So they were able to at least get one kill out of the situation. But since they were still so far up in the lane, Fun Size able to get the roam down as well, pick up another couple of kills for himself, sitting at 4-0 in the mid lane. Only 28 CS, so not super great in the CS department, but the 4 kills certainly making up for that.
Yeah, it's definitely going to help the Akali feel a lot better about that CS disparity, as Indigo still getting the better of some of these macro plays, though. They got those 3 early grubs. They're going to grab this first dragon for themselves as well, and I'm assuming it's probably a Hextech dragon. Second, it might be a Chemtech. The Spectator client still sometimes will lie to you about what dragon is exactly next, as it's not Ocean Soul just yet. Getting a zoom out. It is Chemtech for the second one, which means the Soul will not be Chemtech or Ocean.
Looking for a play here.
Bottom lane, Dunsey looking to get onto Not in My House. They know the Varus doesn't have cleanse, no level 6 yet, so no extra safety from those chains of corruption. But Vanilla ADC hits level 6 in the place, so the Killer Instinct Shield is actually going to keep her safe for a little bit longer. MKS gets that portal out, but a nice response play from the Indigo bottom lane.
Yeah, huge play there by Dunsey, recognizing the fact that even though they've lost out on some of the trades, they can still be aggressive in the spot lane when their abilities do land on the right target. And unfortunately for MKS, Little Pistol.
Little Pistol, the perfect execution, second proc does get the damage through, but it's not a lot of burst just yet. Fun Size actually maybe the one in trouble, as Little Pistol has that Stormbreaker health on. He's feeling confident to step forward, and Fun Size knows that John is on the way, doesn't want to give over a kill, but the shutdown will go over to the Volley Bear.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking a lot so far about like all the kills that have been happening for Definite Aether. They're doing really good with the skirmishes. You look at the gold, all of a sudden they're only up 500 gold. The goal at one point was, I think, like 2.5, maybe even upwards to 3,000 gold. But just like that, after just a couple of kills that have gone over to Indigo, since they do have CS leads in their own individual lanes, they're starting to catch back up a little bit.
Yeah, it's nice that they're able to get those shutdowns. It's not exactly onto the targets you would want. I think for a Little Pistol, you probably would prefer that John has that shutdown, and for the bottom lane especially, they definitely wanted that kill to go over to the Kai'Sa. But when you're at that point in the game where you're starting to feel like you're getting a little bit too far behind, at that point in the game, gold is gold is gold, and you're happy to just get those shutdowns and get the gold into the pocket of somebody on your team.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think It does look like obviously things are kind of just slowed down a little bit here for both teams. It does look like actually NKS want to make a play to Vanilla.
Gonna get that Temper Fate onto the turret. Vanilla getting into a little bit of trouble here. Empowered arrow. The burst comes through for the Varus. Not in my house, says not under your turret either. He finds it.
Yeah, and that's the power of the empowered W there from the Varus with all the blight damage already stacked up. And I think, you know, for Vanilla, I'm a little surprised he actually flashed away from the Tempered Fate. They wanted to initially just turn off the tower and then dive as well, but he could have also just sat under the tower while it was being Tempered Fated to get the CC duration as well, but instead just chose to flash away a little bit. I think, in my opinion, just a little bit unnecessary. Probably could have potentially lived maybe a little bit better, but it is what it is at this point. We do see Void Grubs once again being picked up by Indigo. 6 total out of the 6 being here. So even though they are losing per se,
yes.
Yeah,
to make a play on the bottom lane, but maybe a bit too aggressive as MKS is super low. You take a couple of those tower shots. The Ignite is ticking. John has actually teleported in, has that Spirit Rush. They're going to look for that Death Charge onto Merc. He finds the right one. That Charm connects. That Shutdown Gold going over to Vanilla ADC. Not in my house. Be the next to fall. It's 2 kills over to the Kaisa. Full Pistol comes in to shut down the Bard as well. The play looks good for Definite on Aether, but it's a great response from Indigo.
Yeah, unfortunately, they just didn't quite have the lockdown necessary to really just chain CC them underneath the tower, and with the TP as well coming through from John and the chase down there after. 3 kills going over to Indigo in total, and then also on top of that, a gold lead, despite everything that has happened in the early end that's been so good for Definite Aether. A lot of a combination of the CS leads in all the lanes, and even just like a couple of shutdowns that have gone through. It's now Indigo who are in the driver's seat in this game. Obviously, it is just barely a 1k gold lead, so it's not anything drastic, but still, regardless of a gold lead is a gold lead at the end of the day. They're gonna look to kind of use that as like, okay, like now we're starting to feel ourselves a little bit better again. Like, okay, like we had some oopsies early on into the game, and looking to kind of take that and like use that momentum going forward to see if they can propel this game forward.
Yeah, we were mentioning earlier the potential Eclipse build coming through from the Kaisa with that Halo Blades, but Vanilla ADC, I think, is looking into some Twitter tech here, as I've seen some talking about some Manamune Luden's Crypt Bloom Kaisa. I see that Manamune in inventory, I see that extra Sapphire Crystal, and I'm wondering if we're going to see that build come to fruition. I'm excited to see it because I haven't seen it in any live games just yet, but I've heard a lot of talk about it being optimal and very good, and AP Kaisa potentially being back on the map. I'm curious to see how Vanilla AZ is going to be able to pull it off.
Yeah, I mean, especially with the fact that they have Aatrox and Volibear up on the top side of the map. I mean, they can obviously lean more towards, I guess, that ability power per se. And not feel so bad about it at the current state of the game. But Dragon obviously is spawning up in about 5 seconds or so. Both teams are kind of posturing in the area. It does look like MKS and Merc are kind of looking to make a potential portal play into the bottom side, but it does look like with the 4 members kind of posturing already, and with Varus being in the mid lane, they are a little late for this play, but it does look like they're going to look to walk over anyways. Sunzi can look for a play here.
Ember Fate doesn't find anybody. The hook's coming through onto MKS. Merc's in the backline with the Cyclone. He's found 3, but is he found enough? Little Pistol's gonna heal, but that's under Sky. He'll stay alive. You know, ADC is gonna find the Akali and pick her up. Not in my house. Tries to get something done, but Cassie is here on the teleport. It's 2 kills for Vanilla. It's the Dragon for Indigo, and they found their footing in the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a little desynced from Definite Aether. I think you're starting to see a little bit in terms of like the main players not being in their main position so far on the scene. Not in my house, late to the rotation, kind of caught up in the mid lane a little bit, where even though the play was happening on the bottom side of the Dragon, he actually had to come through mid lane and got ganked by Kazi from the TP in that top situation. Unfortunately, put him in a really awkward state with the fight, so he was basically useless. And then we talked about before the game even started, we said, okay, Akali's going to have a really hard time in these team fights because the moment she goes in, she's going to get point and clicked by either Volibear or Nautilus, and the chain seeds that can come in thereafter is going to be very annoying for the champion. And we saw it right there in that fight. Even though she was 4-1 going into it, very strong, she did absolutely nothing with it.
Yeah, and I think a big deal is actually that lack of CS in the mid lane. John has done a really good job of just making sure Akali stays down. This is a 50 CS deficit in the mid lane, and while those 4 kills are going to help even things out, you can look at the inventories. John has a completed item and a couple of extra components with that 5-stack Dark Seal, whereas Fun Size still hasn't completed that first item yet. It's a really big loss for the Akali, and it's going to make it a lot more difficult to make these executions happen, to make those backline dives really work out in her favor.
Yeah, exactly. And with the Rift Herald being the target for both these teams here, is the Orange actually going to start the fight off?
Call the Forge God. It does find little pistol. It's just onto the Volibear though. They do pick up the Rift Herald but they're just going to sacrifice their jungler. Say, you know what? Somebody had to die to make this play happen. As hang on, maybe more. Tempered Fate doesn't find another ADC, but he's got the flash out. He's going to be just fine. Somebody had to die for the play, and it ended up being the jungler.
Yeah, and unfortunately for them, they were able to pick up the eye. So even though they lost their support, it was their jungler that was able to make a play there. But it does look like the play is not quite done yet. Funsize and Merc, particularly looking for a tower dive for the mid lane, but able to back off for now. Not a whole lot happening in that current play, as they kind of didn't really have a whole lot of resources. They did miss the Varus ultimate, unfortunately. So with that ultimate being down, can't really continue going with the play. But solo laners from both sides contemplating hitting the tower, but Funsize looking for a fight.
As he has that World Under popped, gonna get that Sundered Sky healing. Those autos doing so much work for him. It might not be enough. Funsize looks like get a little bit more damage. Can they find the kill on the Aatrox? He's got so much healing. He's gonna manage to stay alive. Merc now gonna be able to stay alive as well with his own Sundered Sky. Funsize will be the only one to die in that entire exchange, and Kazi, I think, ended with more health than he started. What is that champion?
And it's the power of the Sundered Sky as well as the World Ender extra self-healing, but Lips little pistol.
Oh my god, the damage under tower. He's just gone. That Stormbreaker turning off the tower means not in my house is not safe even in his own house.
Yeah, unfortunately for him, with the Volibear ultimate coming through, wasn't quite able to get the 1-for-1 there, but Indigo really turning the heat up on this game. We obviously at one point this game was 8-1, I believe, and now it's 10-10 here. So huge momentum swing coming through for Indigo at this current state of the game, up 4,000 gold and looking to just take over the mid game and transition their lead into the late game as they possibly can and look at to pick up a victory here.
Yeah, Indigo did a really great job of consolidating everything that had been going on over the course of this game and saying, okay, definitely not Aether. They're playing chaos. They're playing to like scramble and fight us, and we just need to slow things down, make sure the fights are happening on our terms, on our turf, where we want them to happen and how we want them to happen, and they've made it look clean ever since.
I mean, it's what makes a good team, right? Indigo is currently in their current standings, I believe, 8-2 as a total game record, sitting at the top of the standings, right underneath the Kuma Scimitars in their respective group, and they're feeling very, very good about their current in the standings. And this game kind of shows why, where it's even though things don't quite go the way you want them to go in the early game, you can still have a strong bounce back and still be able to make plays thereafter when it's your turn to make plays. It does look like the bot tower here is going to go down to John and Dunsey because there's no one really else here in the area. And at this point in the game, I mean, if you're Indigo, you want to try to make as many plays as you can, but Kazi's a little stuck.
Gonna get stunned up the chains of corruption. The call to Forge God. They are throwing everything at the Aatrox. Varus will find some shutdown gold and pick up some extra gold for his inventory.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, though, like, they're going to make a play towards the top side, but the tier 2 push is still happening here on the bottom side, and Akali has little to no wave clear down here at the bottom side. She only really has her Q ability to actually kill these minions, and if she walks forward any real further, she's going to get chased after and potentially even killed, so she just had to give up this tier 2, and with the Rift Herald still being active, they could have considered going for another push, but instead it is going to be let the Rift Herald do its own thing by itself, potentially relocating over towards that mid lane, as well as picking up that the third dragon of the game for themselves.
Oh, Tempered Fate does find Mill ADC. He's got the killer instinct, but no flash for the Kaisa. Merc does see what Dunsey and John are hitting over, doesn't want to go too aggressive on the play, so he's just going to walk out from that one. Mid lane tower stands, but now with the Cloud Dragon, it's going to go in the inventories of Indigo, aside from some insane steal that comes through, but I don't think there's even a real reason for DNA to try and contest this. It's third Cloud Dragon, it's Soul Point, it doesn't feel great, but it's also Cloud Soul. It's not going to be doing the most in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the only two people I would say that get a lot of value to Cloud Soul would be the Ahri and the Aatrox. Everyone else, it is a fairly nice buff, but it's not the greatest of uses, I would say, in terms of an overall Cloud Soul. But overall here, if you are, for both teams here, I think obviously the game is still theoretically in reach for definitely not Aether. They do have some very strong skirmishing capabilities, so if Indigo is ever being lackadaisical with their positioning or going too far forward for vision, they can very easily get caught out at any point in time. But for Indigo, obviously at this point, you're starting to play more towards like with Cloud still spawning about 4 minutes, Baron spawning in a minute. Their composition is great at setting up vision and fog of war, where they can just say, hey, if you don't walk into us, we will just take something. But if you do walk into us, we'll just be able to kill you on the spot with Nautilus ultimate, with Volibear running at you, and even the Ahri. So that's what I'm kind of looking for Indigo is to set up those areas of vision, potentially have them walk into you and just blow up anybody that sets foot in their own jungle.
Yeah, and I think especially with the gold lead they'd have sitting at are just around 4,000, 4,500 in their favor. It turns to a point in the game where it's pretty easy to just sort of swing your wallet at your opponent and say, hey, our carries have more money than your carries, and they're going to do more damage. MKS does have that portal out. He will be able to escape for now. Dunzi and Pistol are not going to come through the portal. They don't want to know what's waiting on the other side. Just having to keep the Bard away from vision. But yeah, you can already see it in mid lane. It's an item and a half versus the 2 items and the Darksteel stacks as Caxi maybe caught out. Actually, the hook does land on to MKS, and with no portal to speak of, he's just gone. Bang is teleported into the backline, but I'm not sure this is exactly where he wants to be. That depth charge will find Fun Size over the wall. John will land the charm. Oh my god, the burst of the Akali! She's just gone with the Void Missile from Kaisa. One more for Vanilla ADC. He's looking for more. He's looking for the damage. He's found it. A triple kill for Vanilla ADC.
Yeah, the damage from the W, as well as all the CC procs coming through for Kaisa's passage, just absolutely exploded Fun Size in the backline. But initially, that was a play built off of the fact that DNA was like, okay, like they're Aatrox is overextended. Let's go on top of this guy. But Aatrox is a really hard champion to kill, and he didn't have mid push, so the road of access from the mid lane, from John and from Vanilla ADC, was so much quicker than anyone else on DNA's side, where they just could not actually keep up and actually get in their own jungle. So unfortunately, even though they started the play backfires on them, losing almost everyone on the squad and the Baron on top of it.
Yeah, and I think something we didn't really mention in the draft is how many activators of this Kaisa Plasma we really do have. Every member of this Indigo squad has at minimum 1 ability, more often than not 2 or 3, that can activate the Kaisa Plasma, that can get her these extra passive procs. And with this AP poke build, the W does more damage based on how many plasma stacks they have. So even if Kaisa's not the one autoing and applying the stacks, it will do more damage if you see someone on 1 stack versus someone on like 4. It's gonna hurt a hell of a lot.
Oh yeah, it's definitely going to hurt a lot, especially with Crypt Bloom being completed with the Sork Shoes, and even when the Luden's Companion has the full 6-stack gun, it is going to do an absolute lot of burst damage. We do see Little Pistols potentially almost considering going on top of NKS there, but chose to go for the tower instead. But Beg looking for a flank.
On the back line, Killer Instinct goes over the wall, gets Vanilla ADC into a safe spot. Beg is unstoppable, so it is just the 2 members of Indigo in that Temper Fate. Can they finally find a fight? Can they look for some damage? Not My House is getting engaged on the back line. John will be able to find the burst and pick up 1, but in the meantime, they have found Kaisa. Vanilla ADC has gone down. Little Pistol and Cassie now trying to chase Merc down, as the Kaisa did go legendary, but went down. Like we said, Pistol will find Merc. It's 3 kills for Indigo, but it's 2 really important kills going over to DNA.
Yeah, they recognized they had a small window where they could actually make the play. Beg on the flank there in the mid lane. Vanilla ADC almost did a really good job repositioning themselves in the fight, trying to gain as much distance as they possibly could, but unfortunately couldn't quite gain enough distance away with the Akali being able to get on top of them and able to pick up the kill. But the fight thereafter, since they invested so many resources just in killing the 1 champion, I mean, the other champions of Indigo are still very, very strong. Ahri's really tough to deal with. Aatrox, as we've seen in a lot of these fights, just doesn't really take damage from anyone but the Varus on the squad of definitely not Aether. So unfortunately for them, since they invested so many resources, they were not able to win the ensuing fight, even though they killed probably the most fed member on the team in Indigo. But with the respawns coming through, Dragon spawning up in about 10 seconds or so, I believe definitely not Aether is saying, hey, we don't really want to fight for this drag, but if we give them soul for free, it's going to be fairly, the odds of us winning this game just get lower and lower, even though they're already so low. So they're potentially looking for a potential steal, I would assume. I don't think they're going to send anyone for a crazy fight, I would say, but Indigo playing this one smart, playing this one slow. They're control warding everything, they're warding it out, and they're not even going to go for a steal whatsoever. It is just going to be the Cloud Soul picked up here for Indigo.
Yeah, with Merc on the other side of the map, they were not going for anything, and I think there's an idea of DNA looking for the play that's going to maybe find him win as Faye, maybe on the run. He's got that dash that he'll be able to get out of there, but there's the difference between playing to find your avenues for a win versus playing to just not lose. And for DNA, there's an avenue here where they get Varus to that third item, they start getting these Ornn items in, they start scaling them up, and they get really strong. But to do that, they're going to have to find some way to get these objectives out of the hands of Indigo, because that next Elder Dragon is probably a game ender, and potentially even the Baron that's spawning in about 2.5 minutes could be a game ender if DNA can't find a way to contest. So it's going to be on them to look for some sort of miracle fight, maybe a pickoff or two on an overextending member of Indigo. But I will say in Indigo's favor, they've done a great job of just playing this macro game really cleanly, super smoothly. Nobody's getting caught out. Nobody's overextending on side lanes. It's just been clean executions for them this whole way through.
Yeah, and they're just taking the base piece by piece here. You can slowly see the mid inhibitors exposed, bot inhibitor exposed, tier 3 towers about to get potentially threatened here by the next wave that is going to be insinuating here. But John is potentially almost in trouble there, but with the RA and with the Lich Bane proc coming through, he just kind of gets to chip down this inhibitor slowly but surely, and that's kind of the name of the game, slowly but surely, because when you have this big of a gold lead, you kind of just get to do somewhat whatever you want. A little pistol getting caught out a little bit.
As that Stormbringer, he'll be able to get out. Kazzy's on the side here. They don't manage to get that full call of the Forge Trap proc. Vanilla ADC in the back line. Maybe if it's overextended here, actually, because Not My House does a hell of a lot of damage on the Varus. It's 2 kills going over to DNA. Not My House still untouched. This might be the overextension that they were looking for. It's 2 kills for Fun Side. Little pistol forced to try and run away. John is going to get stunned up on the wall, and he's got no mana. Fun Side should just be able to chase this one down. Get those passive procs in. Storm Surge shut down. DNA with a great punish.
Yeah, it is a great punish, but unfortunately for them, they aren't quite able to really get anything off the back afterwards. Baron's not available. Dragon is not available for them to take. So yeah, it is going to be an inflection of gold, but outside of that, that's basically all it's going to be. So we do see a bit of a weapon fight that Volibear 100% wins.
Yeah, Volibear just feels a little upset at his brother. He's throwing some chomps in on his back as Beg's forced to run away. Real lore battle there. Neither of them dies, but, you know, Orange forced on the retreat.
Yeah, but like I said, unfortunately for them, they're not able to get anything off of it. But still, the goldie does feel the gold inflection does feel relatively nice there off of that play. But really, it was off the back of Vanilla ADC just kind of diving into the back lane completely by himself with no one really there to help him. And Kai'Sa's really great. Obviously, she can assassinate people, but she's really great when other people just set her up for success when she can dive on top of them and just blow somebody up because of somebody else's doing. That's where Kai'Sa's really at her strong point. But fortunately for him, maybe he felt like, okay, like I can just burst him with just a little bit of CC, but unfortunately Varus was able to get away scot-free and gets the kills thereafter. But with the Baron spawning up in about 7 seconds, they're gonna have to basically do that exact same thing they just did again. But yes,
Tempered Fate finds 3. He gets himself a little bit shattered in gold, but I think it's just an extra statue for the members of Indigo. Bang now on the front line, taking up a lot of damage. The Call Forge Cop finds 3. Merc now taking a lot of damage, has that Cyclone to give himself some access onto the back line, but it's just trying to kill for Not My House. The Bears still trying to do a lot of damage. He's got that Terminus stacked up. Can he fight the damage? No! John with that Spirit Rush healing. He's feeling safe on the Ahri. Indigo finds their fight, and Baron be damned, they're just gonna end the game.
Yeah, and once again, Indigo slapping them with the wallets there. Not a super clean fight, I would say, in terms of just chasing down for forever. Varus almost able to kite that one away, doing a lot of damage, but a huge charm there from John, able to just barely lock the Varus up in the game and pick up the game 1 victory here for Indigo.
Yeah, I do think it was just a little bit of over-aggression and overextension there from Vanilla in that one fight where he was like, hey, I'm a super fed Kai'Sa. I can dive onto the back line and one-shot this Varus. I'll be fine. It's kind of that just like oopsie-doopsie kind of play that you make every once in a while in solo queue, but the build was built for poke, and you can see it in the amount of damage that he dealt and the amount of gold that he got, because this Kai'Sa was so strong.
Yeah, it definitely was. Honestly, I'm a little surprised by just how much damage the champion's doing, but I mean, Kai'Sa's builds have always been like kind of funky, I would say, due to the champion's nature, so not super surprised, I guess, by the end of it, just seeing how much damage it was. But at the end of the day, it was John, actually, who did lead the damage charts here, just barely, over vanilla with about 640 more or so additional damage than the Kaisa. So kudos to John, even though the Akali was the one making the plays early, making the kind of having, I guess, the more quote unquote impact in the early stages of the game, able to keep the Akali down in the CS department and just keeping themselves very relevant in the game despite how much of the kills that Funside was able to get early on.
Yeah, I do think this game, though, was really all about this bottom lane. The early trades from Vanilla ADC and Not In My House just going super aggressive into each other's faces, trying to make damage happen in that early game. It looked like it was actually working out really well for the side of DNA, with the Not In My House Varus getting a lot of early kills, getting that early pressure. But when the Bard started roaming on the map, when they started like losing that pressure in the bottom lane, that CS discrepancy started to get bigger and bigger, and Kaisa was able to have time to just scale, and that ended up hurting them in the long term with this Kaisa build just doing so much poke damage. It's so difficult to try and find a way to find and engage onto this composition.
Yeah, and then we talked about also like going into the game, the ease of execution for Indigo's composition, where once they got that lead from when they stumbled, the ability just to chase people down over and over again and just layer their CC became so incredibly easy, to the point that even though they were up like 7 or 8,000 gold and some of their team fights were a little hectic, maybe not super clean per se, the ability to chase people down and just chain CC them over and over again allowed them to kind of have those small oopsies in their team fights, but still find a lot of success.
Yeah, success for Indigo in game 1. They take away the win. We're going to take a short break while we hop into the draft for game 2 of Definite Not Aether versus Indigo. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. We're here for game 2 of DNA. Definite not Aether versus Indigo. Teams are staying on the same side, and we're hopping straight to the draft.
Yep, draft's already starting. Once again, coming through with the Gwen ban. I believe Indigo's top laner has, like, out of his total games, like 180 games on Gwen, and everything else below is like 20. So, not super surprised with the Gwen ban coming through, especially like considering that when it has been up, he has picked that up early and often in drafts. So, curious to see what the rest of the bans are going to look like. I'm curious if it's going to be just a straight up the same bans for both teams so far. We are 3 for 3 in terms of the bans going through for these teams. I'm just a little curious to see, and also a little curious to see what adaptations DNA will be making into this game. So obviously, we talked about in the intermission, talked about Dividend Aether having a tremendous start to the game, right? I mean, 8-1, 8-1 total kill score was like, I mean, like maybe a 10-minute marker or so, maybe even shorter than that. Like absolutely just like winning every single skirmish across the board. But unfortunately, like we said, some of the roams just take a little bit too long to make, and they started falling fairly behind in the CS department, where even like once Indigo started making better plays to get back into the game, all of a sudden they were just ahead, and their composition was just so good at just chasing people down and making those plays happen. So curious to see exactly what DNA will be going for this time around. We do see Talia Lucian banned away here for DNA, and then the same exact bans here for Indigo, with the Varus being picked up. And I wouldn't be surprised if I was Indigo saying, hey, let's just run back the Kaisa Volibear. It worked very well.
Yeah, Vanilla ADC looked great on the Kaisa, and that build, especially the poke build, worked really, really well. As long as they don't make those same early game flubs versus the Varus, maybe you take lethal tempo this time around if you want to be trading like that, where you play more towards that Halo of Blades. But like you said, they're just going to run back that Kaisa Volibear. For DNA, as much as I think the Bard is comfort for MKS, if you're going to be roaming like that, and especially with a Varus, a champion who is very reliant on his support to be safe in lane and getting a lot of CS, you can't really roam that far for that long and allow him to get that far away. So they're actually going to lock in the Thresh this time around, and one of my personal favorite champions, my main currently. It's just been a lot of fun to play, and I'm excited to see here in the AML. I want to see how the big boys play this time around.
Yeah, I mean, Thresh has slowly, which I mean, this champion kind of always does this, where even though he can be gone for a long period of time, he will kind of always slowly but surely make his way back to relevancy at time to time, because even if his regular abilities aren't always that great, Lantern is always a great option for them to have. And definitely, I think in terms of anticipating the Nautilus, I gotta be honest, Nautilus does fairly well in the Thresh. So I'm a little surprised that they just said, okay, like let's just throw a Thresh, and that might make our bot lane better, because Nautilus actually does fairly well. So a little curious to see exactly kind of how that one plays out in the bot lane. But so far, Indigo running the exact same bans and picks so far across the board, even though DNA has switched up a little bit with the Thresh and the Viego.
Yeah, no real reason for Indigo to change. They still feel happy with the current draft that they have. I wonder if that 4 and 5 is going to swap around based on this Viego pick. Maybe they'll look for something different this time around. I do want to say for the Nautilus versus Thresh matchup, this is a fairly high skill matchup. Nautilus does have the ability to just like play that sort of brain off, I'm going to click hook and I'm going to go in whenever I want to kind of gameplay. But as long as the Thresh is like ready on the play, has a Lantern around for the Varus, and doesn't let Varus eat those hooks, it should be able to work out. If not in the Thresh's favor, not fully against him, as that second round of ban phase is going to come through. The Poppy in the way, like you said. Indigo pretty much running back the same bans. I don't expect that we'll see the brand ban this time around, as that Viego was already locked in for themselves. But they're going to take away the Castillo from the mid lane of DNA.
Yeah, I mean, I guess trying to eliminate one of the DPS mid laners coming through for DNA. I'm a little bit surprised that, you know, anytime you see Viego, the name of the game is just kind of about getting the resets to come through. So I'm curious to see what exact Indigo's mid laner option is going to be. If they go something like the Ahri, I'd be a little surprised that they didn't ban Lissandra, who is really great at just point and clicking somebody and eliminating that mobility to come through and allowing Viego to get those resets in those team fights. So curious to see exactly what Indigo is going to be picking up here for their 4th option. It will most likely just kind of be that mid lane pick once again. Instead, going to go with the Aatrox, immediately sending Volibear into the jungle. So far, we're 4 for 4 for Indigo. Pretty curious to see if they just run it back.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if DNA grabs the Ahri up just as a potential pick away from this Indigo comp, because they saw all 5 of these champions in the last game. They know Indigo knows how to pilot them well, so it wouldn't feel great to pick them up exactly. Maybe you actually pick a preemptive counter to Ahri in this mid lane matchup. You look for something that Fun Size is going to have a little bit more proficiency on, as Sylas is the hover, and there's a lot of great ultimates for Sylas here to steal. So I really like this pickup for DNA.
Yeah, but it is the lock into, so maybe potentially expecting the Ahri pick to come through as well, like you said. So saying like, okay, like the Sylas does fairly well into Ahri as well, and also has the Nautilus ultimate and a Volibear, which can be very, very, even like Aatrox.
Aatrox, yeah.
Can be a good ultimate there for the Sylas. Unfortunately, doesn't use the AD version of the ultimate, but the self healing is very, very nice for his W. So does feel very, very good there. And with the Ord as well, going through for Beg once again up in that top lane. So now Indigo's mid laner gets to kind of the pick of the litter here. They don't really need necessarily anything in particular. They do kind of have the choice of the litter here. You could go something that does fairly well into the Sylas and kind of just beat them down in the lane, or you could do something that's kind of the play making, the more simple side of the game. Gonna go with the Rise Hover. Couple seconds left, and it is actually locked in.
Okay. I really like this Rise here. It's not an ultimate that Sylas is super happy to steal very often. Like, you have the ability to make those macro plays with the Realm Ward, but it's not like the big game-changing, like, Swain ultimate, Alistair ultimate, that's really going to make you like a team fight god and kind of menace. And for DNA, the Ord pick is not too surprising for me. It didn't feel like top lane was really any part of the problem for them in draft or in gameplay. Beg found some decent flank angles, had a couple of great Call of the Forge gods, and was able to survive the laning phase. So I think they're fine picking that one up into the Aatrox. Again, it will probably just be another unsealed spell book, survive the lane, not really needing to do anything in particular throughout the laning phase. But the Rise here really is like the red flag for me for DNA, because I'm not entirely sure how they actually deal with him once this Rise gets that 1-2 item power spike and just starts machine gunning through the fights. And it's no dive god like Ahri, but at the same time, it's a lot of consistent DPS, and it will allow Kai'Sa to have a little bit more build flexibility. She's not pigeonholed into just going AP or AD.
Yeah, and once again, it is still a fairly short range composition coming through from DNA. The only real range they have is the Varus, so everyone else kind of really has to get into the thick of things, and that's where Rise thrives. And a lot of these team fights where he can get the multiple spell flux bounces up onto his Qs, where he actually able to do the big AoE chunks of damage. And I think as long as he's able to kind of stand behind his Volibear and his Nautilus, and they're the ones soaking up the Thresh Hook or even the Sylas chains, Kai'Sa and Rise can very easily layer through and land lots of damage. And even though we talked about obviously top lane not being super relevant for the game, Aatrox had a fairly free scaling lane and just kind of got to do whatever he wanted to, besides the little, I guess, exchange they had at the top lane where 3 people just kind of sat up there for like a minute or so, whatever that was. But overall, I mean, Aatrox, I mean, the top laner obviously had a very strong, successful game here for Indigo, and looking to run it back on that champion. And really, I mean, that's kind of how it feels for all of Indigo here on this team here. I mean, I think obviously there was some early game miscalculations, I guess is a nice way of putting it, and so some of their plays that they were going for, but still feeling relatively confident about their ability to perform this type of composition. I think it's still very, very simple. You just kind of want to chain CC somebody down and now over on repeat, and making sure you can kind of get those kills and then move on to the next. And I think if you're DNA, the composition is almost the exact same, where you want to get those Vega resets, you want to get the ability to go from one person to another. So curious to see just how exactly both these teams are willing to kind of see who can kill that person faster and really burn them in these team fights to go through.
Yeah, who's got the real burn damage this time around? Before we jump to a quick break and get onto the rift for game 2, I want to give a quick shout out to our second sponsor of tonight, Pro Comps, one of our sponsors and game changer app for the League community. This isn't just like other tools, it's your personal draft coach, perfect for both teams and solo players. In fact, you can even pair it with any other app that you use in Overwolf. Pro Comps stands out with features like custom champion pools, personalized tier lists, and live draft advice. You can think of it like having a draft coach and a personalized strategy toolkit all wrapped up into one. They offer real-time champ recommendations and ban recommendations as well. They already have over 200,000 downloads and thousands of daily users just like you. ProComps is user-friendly and is 100% free. It's a no-brainer to at least give it a go. You can download ProComps now and you'll experience a whole new level of drafting power in your league games. You can go to procomps.gg or download from the Overwolf app, or you can click on the panel below our stream. And like we said, we're going to take a quick break before we jump onto the riff for game 2 of DNA versus Indigo. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. We're here for game 2 of Definite Not Aether versus Indigo. After a pretty much run back half, at least, of the drafts, Indigo here got pretty much all the picks they wanted this time around. But we already have some potential early game moves here on the bottom side of the map for DNA.
Yeah, I mean, they do have Threshook, and they do have, I guess, the Silas ability to start E as well. So they do kind of have a chase down potential here, but with a very standard 5-point array here for the side of Indigo, they should be spotted here by Vanilla ADC, so we'll be able to back up here, and they will actually be able to get that ward there. So a slight victory here, I would say, for Indigo, for DNA, but with them being seen on the bottom side of the map, they are able to get the potential ward, as Little Pistol, has now placed that ward, so they will kind of have an idea of what Merc is doing in the jungle.
Yep, fun size is already up 1 CS, so essentially the game's already over. We can just like wrap up production and move it to game 3 for now. But the early ward on that blue buff should be good for Little Pistol on this jungle path. It looks like he's probably going to start on his Raptors to just be able to get a bit of an early fast clear without a leash, as actually looks like both junglers are starting on Raptors, a leashless for them. This seems to be some of the new tech that a lot of junglers are going through. You clear those Raptors, it gives you a little bit more flexibility in your early pathing. You can go down towards your bottom side camps, or you can move up and look to gank top side, depending on what you want to go for. As early trading in the mid lane, just some keystones being traded back and forth. But I'm interested to see where both of these junglers are going to go, as it looks like they're both headed towards the top side of the map here.
Yeah, exactly. It is actually a complete bottom side of the map skip here for Viego, and it will be seen by this, so they will have the knowledge of, okay, Viego has skipped his bottom side of the camps, and kind of curious to see what exactly his plan is here. Does obviously going over towards the ground will have the ability to kind of go for it as Fun Size, landing a nice trade, but the damage return from the tower shot will basically, even if not actually, be a bonus towards John here in that mid lane. Both mid laners going very, very low.
Yeah, Fun Size, I think just like a little bit underestimating how long that tower range is going to be, and those minion autos alongside those rise autos doing a lot of work for John in that mid lane exchange. It is still one potion here available for Fun Size. He's still holding on to that one as he's got his jungler nearby. They might be looking for something in mid lane here. Merc maybe can find a stun, but it might be too close under tower. This is really, really risky. Fun Size going to tank one, doesn't tank the second tower shot. It doesn't come through. So they're going to trade on the bottom side as well. MKS finding a nice hook onto Dunsey. I was real worried for Fun Size's safety there. I thought for sure that was going to be a kill.
Yeah, unfortunately, though, was only the one tower shot for him, so is able to get away scot-free, but still able to burn the flash from John. So, once again, Fun Size being aggressive in the laning phase again from game 1 to game 2. We saw it a lot from that last game with the Akali. Even though they were falling behind in some of the in the CS, they were still trying to make a lot of plays happen, and actually were able to. So this time, able to actually be up in the CS category, as well as to be able to make those solid plays. So curious to see if they will be able to return on that that play they just made with the flash as well, being down from the rise and the chase down with the E coming through. They might be able to make another play here.
Fun Size wants to find an all-in on mid again. He's just getting these trades into John, but now with Little Pistol here, might be danger. Just the junglers trading here 1-for-1, looking to go a little aggressive with each other. Merc does find a stun. A Pistol could actually be in trouble, but Fun Size doing a little bit of misdirection. Wants to go in on John. Finds the first blood. Big damage from the Silas. Now Pistol forced to flash away as well. A nice early win for the DNA mid-jungle duo.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing from game 1 to game 2, just overstepping their aggression here in the mid lane from John and Little Pistol, and then once again getting punished here. So you see nice hook landing from MKS there onto Dunsey, getting a nice little poke damage here from the bot lane damage. So overall, not too bad in terms of their overall health discrepancy here, but still nice to see a little bit of a confidence boost. Thresh has always been just a confidence champion. If you're landing hooks, you can feel like you're an absolute god. If you're not landing anything, you can feel like you're absolutely useless at all stages of the game besides just a lantern bot. So nice to see here for NKS landing nice little bits of damage here onto Dunsey and Little Pistol.
Yeah, nice interrupt onto that recall as well. It's really going to slow down Little Pistol and should give Merc a bit of extra time on the map to find exactly where he wants to go. Right now, he is just kind of sitting in base. I imagine he's thinking about what item he wants to build first, what exactly direction he wants to go. I'm worried that he might have actually stepped away from his keyboard for a little bit, and he'll finally fill up that inventory. Yep. The extra time that was bought by his bottom lane will just go to even out the amount of time he spent there.
Yeah, exactly. It's able to pick up the Sork shoes here. So you see a nice little hook here landing from Dunsey with the trade thereafter onto Vanilla.
Yeah, MKS finds the hook back onto Vanilla. It's Cleanse traded away for Ignite. It's Not In My House gets a lot of damage now onto Dunsey, but meanwhile in the mid lane, Funsize might have overstepped his bounds a little bit too much, has to use his flash to get away. John wanted to get aggressive with those flux bounces, but couldn't find all the damage onto this Silas. Merc is standing around, maybe looking for a potential play onto Little Pistol here. We'll find that stun, but doesn't want to go too much more aggressive.
Yeah, unfortunately not really quite able to make a play at this time, but able to get the flash out of Funsize does kind of alleviate some of the pressure that was being put onto John here. So able to kind of say, okay, like, you know, maybe we actually be okay then here in the bottom side of the map. But the grubs are being a point of contention here for the side of Indigo. Once again, same as last game, able to pick up those early grubs. We do see Merc potentially get wandering, see like, okay, maybe we can actually make this play here, or it'll be in.
Call the Forge God does find the knock on the pistol. Can they find any more damage? Right now it's just Cassie with that World Ender run, trying to get some damage down onto this Horde. The damage is big. Pistol finds one, and now Funsize has rotated up. John's still very far away back in the mid lane. Funsize hanging on to that Stormbreaker and a slash away from Cassie from the damage, but he's on such low HP. Can he find his way out of this fight? Can he look to trade something back as his pistol? Trying to get some damage down onto Funsize. Merc looking for the aggression onto him. The shield come down. Pistol will stay alive for a little bit longer. Kinsey doesn't find that knockup. Funsize should be able to just finish off. He's gonna die here. They find Pistol. There's the reset for the Viego. It should just be 2 quick kills going over to Merc.
And surviving with the slimmest of HP here is the both Funsize and Merc on that play, almost able to be right back. That play could have gone either way for both these teams here, but fortunately for the side of DNA, able to get out of there with the 2 kills. Nice play though, recognizing that they could get that initial kill there onto Beg, already using Call of the Forge God, and Funsize hadn't quite made the roam up towards that grub fight to really make a difference, but able to kind of turn it around, and the back end of the play now going up again 3-1 in the kill score.
Yeah, and it does mean that the 3 grubs do not go over to Indigo this time around. A little bit of change from that first game, and it means that even if DNA ends up in a bad spot, as hang on, Vanilla ADC, maybe getting aggressed on, but Dunsey is here for the response. MKS forced to flash away, that Ignite taking down on him. Not In My House uses that cleanse to get away from the root, but he's so low on HP. If that was a level 6 Kaisa, I think this trade is just a win, but the health bar is going in favor of Indigo bottom lane once again.
Yeah, I think Brand Guest there just stepping a little bit too far forward, not knowing that Dunsey was right over the wall and landing a hook onto him. Really well played there, but well landed both Dunsey and Vanilla ADC. And like you said, I think if Kaisa actually is level 6 there, I think Thresh is actually just dead with the ability to follow through with the ultimate ability, but fortunately for them, not quite level 6 yet, and they are able to survive. But with their very low HP bars, with the dragon being spawned up, it could just mean that the dragon being able to take actually Dunsey.
Ooh, double flash.
Last reaction.
Out. That's really nice reaction from Not In My House, but this is a trade win for Dunsey. He's got the Hex Flash. He's feeling fine to just burn that flash on cooldown to look for this Varus. Now with the EDCs having level 6,
oh, nice
for some gameplay, finds the hook on the MKS, and with no flash on this Thresh, it should just be kills. The road warp in onto the backline. They find Not In My House first. They're going to donate the kill over to Vanilla ADC, make sure that Kaisa gets something out of this trade. And it's a big win for the bottom side of Indigo.
Yeah, huge play there from the side of Indigo, recognizing that not only with the dragon being up, they can just make a play on the bottom lane with the Realm War coming through from John, recognizing they can just get behind with Not In My House not having any sums. Able just to chase him down, as well as picking up the dragon as the cherry on top here for the side of Indigo. Funsize was able to kind of push in the mid lane though, so John did miss out on some of the minions there in the mid lane, but definitely still feels really good about their situation there, just due to the fact they were able to get a successful roam down into the bottom side. And we saw last game just kind of the damage that Kaisa can pour onto the game as the game just kind of goes on, and with once again picking up some kills the stage of the game, definitely feels really good.
Yeah, I'm starting to get some flashbacks from game 1 where Not In My House able to find some early wins in the bottom lane up in CS, managed to find some damage in the mid lane here as Funsize actually gets a pretty hefty trade into John. But yeah, Vanilla ADC, despite some of the early game losses, despite some oversteppings from both of them, as does my Not In My House is a great laser to keep Not In My House safe for a little bit longer, but I don't think the Varus will be able to escape this one. It's a nice play on the 2, but with no flash, no cleanse, this Varus should just be gone. They're going to make sure Vanilla ADC finds that last hit, but it might have taken a little bit too much time as the Kingslayer doesn't actually find any, able to find any damage, and teleports in from John. Merc might have overstepped. Dunsey finds a hook onto MKS. Merc will go down. It's a nice hook from MKS, though. He'll manage to trade one back. Fun Size is here, but it's just too little too late to make anything happen. He might be able to dissuade the dive as he shows himself, but the kills are still in favor of Indigo. As, hang on, it's not done yet. Dunsey wants to find that hook. Oh, the burst of damage coming through. Vanilla ADC finds their 4th kill of the game.
Yeah, they are another kill as well, but Dunsey doesn't look he's quite done yet.
He wants the hook, but a nice sidestep from Fun Size with
Vanilla.
Oh, Fun Size flashes in, gets the shutdown gold. Tower aggro to OP as now Dunsey looking to try and trade back, trying to get that CC down with the case there from Fun Size. Gonna give him some extra HP. John trying to trade back, trying to get a little bit of damage up. There's that Heartbreaker from Merc. Fun Size doesn't get the flash in, doesn't get the dash in. John doesn't manage to buy the damage. It's a triple kill for Fun Size.
Yeah, triple kill once again. It's very similar to last game where he just got to get so many kills in the early stages of the game. This time actually staying relevant in the CS category here. So definitely looking to kind of take this momentum and kind of carry it forward, potentially take us into a game 3 series here. But the play started off where they said, okay, we're going to use the depth charge. And that's why I said, like, you know, Nautilus is good into threats because even though you have the Lantern, depth charge will just chase you forever until it knocks you up. And with the Glacial procking up through, the chase down did come through and they were able to pick up that kill. But the rest of the members there, obviously the fight just kind of kept going afterwards where, okay, they could consider taking a fight, but unfortunately for them, they just kind of ran out of gas there. Little Pistol as well, flashing forward, did stun a minion. That's kind of why I said, oh no, because he made a pretty big oopsie. But still, it actually worked out really well for them until the very end when Vanilla decided to W the silence while he was under the tower, which meant he actually had to leave the tower's range. And Fun says, okay, I can just go in and burst you. And from that point on, with the Ego as well, respawning from the fight, actually able to completely turn it around and make this game an even game once again.
Yeah, that's the great part about these early game fights. If they last for long enough, you really can just respawn and make your way back to the exchange. It's a good time as always, but I do want to say Vanilla ADC, despite the death going over and the shutdown goal going over to Fun Size, which is exactly what DNA wanted from that fight. 4 kills for the Kaisa this early is good with this scaling poke build. That Manamune already online, going to be stacking up fairly quickly. I imagine that Luton's Companion is not too far away either with this Cullen inventory as well. Lots of gold for this Kaisa despite the CS deficit.
Yeah, exactly. And I am curious, obviously, who is going to win the battle between the Silas and the Kaisa, because right now, I mean, those are the members that are really, really strong for both respective teams here. As we do see MKS Not My House trying to potentially look for a bush ambush here. But good read, good little sniff out from Vanilla and Dunsey as Merc has made his way into the bottom bush here as Volibear as well. It's in the area, so potential 3v3.
Oh, Dunsey finds the hook onto Not In My House. He's hanging on to that cleanser just a little bit longer. He finally pops, but I think it might just be too little too late. He'll find the ADC, though. The Ignite's ticking away. He will finally go down. Dunsey finds that kill. MKS looking for some extra CC. Mercs getting his resets. He's got the Nautilus body now. Gets that Heartbreaker over the rise. Pistol doesn't have the damage, but Fun Size now has rotated in, has that Stormbreaker of his own. He's going to look for some extra damage down to the Little Pistol. You brought us so much damage. The Storm Surge Lightning coming through as well. But MKS, with a swing of the scythe, will find the last hit on that kill.
Yeah, unfortunately for Fun Size, wasn't quite able to pick up the kill there at the very end on the Little Pistol, but still, it is a really good play there from DNA, recognizing, hey, we can actually make this play here. We have Viego here first. Volibear wasn't quite there yet, but once again, Vanilla ADC just keeps diving forward with the Kaisa's ultimate, thinking they can do more than they actually can. Got CC'd up and bursted, and was the reason why they lost that fight off the rip. But Dunsey and Vanilla looking for a fight again.
Dunsey finds the hook on the Merc, but you're 2v3 right now. John is not here just yet. Teleport coming through from a bag. The massive damage. Aestrox is ending the world. Cassie picks up MKS. The bag now stuck in a 1 versus 5 as he's going to try and run away, but I do not think he has much longer for it. A beautiful TP from Cassie, and it will net Indigo the Dragon and 4 free kills.
Yeah, 4 for 0 there. Cassie with a nice roam, plus the TP back up to the top lane as well, not missing out on hardly any minions from the play, so a lot of value there from Kazi. And we see the initial play where we say, okay, hook going forward for the Dunsey, catching some members out, but the moment Aatrox shows up with the World Ender, they just have no one that can stop him. And with the Profane Hydra already picked up here, the AoE from Kazi able to do so much work in that fight, just decimated everyone that was in his path. And from that point on, obviously the fight was just over. Now obviously building up a solid little gold lead here, trying to pick up some of these outer towers that are still standing and available as Kazi's waiting for these last few minions to die to do pick up the top lane tower, as Funsize is potentially looking for a play with Merc here onto Kazi, who does not have the World Ender, does not have Flash.
Yeah, no Flash, no TP, no World Ender. This should just be a dead Aatrox. Goodbye. Merc finds the shutdown gold. Dunsey was there to try and support, but now has to try and speed his way out. The Trailblazer is going to net him a bit of extra movement. Merc just using that Heartbreaker for a little bit of extra gap closing, but you will manage to find it. Dunsey gets knocked up. They're going to be able to give this kill over to whoever they want, but in the meantime, it's turns going over in favor of Indigo. They managed to pick up the support, but they're losing some extra gold on the map.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of the benefit of not rotating so many members up there. As you see Flash coming through from Funsize. Unfortunately, not quite able to get it on using his Flash of his own. So we're being respectful there, not wanting to take any risk of making sure that that potentially lands on top of him. So flashing out of the way. But like I was saying, anytime you send your resources to one side of the map, the other team's able to kind of counter it out a little bit here, as they do in the mid lane, taking up that tier 1 tower there. But with the kills that do go their way, they are able to pick up the Rit Herald as well on that side of the map. So overall, I mean, of course, losing your mid tower is not the best thing in the world, but still picking up 2 towers is still at least a small benefit in terms of the amount of resources you did invest up in the top side.
Yeah, I do also want to point out in this game, Kazi has opted for the lethality build as opposed to the Sundered Sky that we saw in game 1. As Funsize has that depth charge. Vanilla ADC has to be a little bit extra careful this time around with no Flash. That might just be a dead Kaisa. I want to see this depth charge go to good use for Funsize. That's one of the best ultimates that he can steal for the 1v1s in the side lane here. And especially, Storm Surge already completed. What I imagine is the Shadow Flame on the way. This is a very, very damage-heavy Sylas. No utility, no extra, like, HP sustaining kind of action. He's just looking to one-shot a target.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially the fact that he's the strongest member of his team alongside the Viego. Definitely looking to kind of do this right here.
Oh, he wants to find his burst. He does.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, the Vanilla ADC, the damage is huge. Funsize goes on stop on the Lantern is there. MKS gets his mid laner out. Support MVP.
Yeah, nice little play there by MKS, recognizing that the Lantern was necessary to get out of that situation, but Merc's not done yet.
Oh, Merc wants to find an engage here. He is 2 versus 1 currently. That depth charge will be able to knock out a splash play from MKS to knock the members of Indigo down. Little Pistol trying to run away, but Merc has the body of Dunsey, says, get the heck back here. Picks up the volley as well. Now Beg trading on the top side into Kazi. Knows not in my house is nearby. Those Chains of Corruption will find the Aatrox. No repositioning on that Q3, but
miscue.
Pretty fast. Not in my house has that red buff on. He's trying to get down onto the Aatrox with the damage from the Aatrox. You can't disrespect the lethality! Profane Hydra's a hell of an item, and Kazi picks up 2 in the 1v2.
Yeah, but I think the moment Not in My House just tapped his Q and missed it, I think they could no longer actually have the damage to pick up the kill there onto Kazi, but instead they kept walking forward. They just walked into Aatrox's damage, and Aatrox shows just how powerful this champion really can be when you walk into the amount of damage he has available in the kit. And right now, I mean, this game is back and forth. Obviously, still a 1,000 gold lead here for Indigo, but a much better response here on the side of DNA.
Yeah, that really is the power of the lethality, Aatrox. You have to respect how much damage that Profane Hydra does. But yeah, DNA actually managing to, well, not keep their lead. Indigo is still about 1,000 gold. It's a lot closer than it was at 20 minutes last time around. We're not seeing that third dragon go down. The Grubs, there's 1 at least for DNA. And while the kill score is in their favor, they are down a tower. But at the very least, this game is much more competitive from them. And they have a lot more avenues and a lot more paths to try and find their way back into this game and start securing themselves a lead.
Yeah, absolutely. But the dragon is spawning up here in about 10 seconds. And we saw last time the work that Kazi put in here in this situation does get his spell shield broken. so won't have that for about another 45 seconds or so. But this is where Kai'Sa's poke could become very, very dangerous. As long as she has sights on one particular person, they can just kind of keep on hitting that button. But Dunsey hooked a wall.
Oh, nice side step from Dunsey. He gets away from that stun. Now Beg on the front line trying to do a lot of damage. Cassie there looking for some damage, but he does get picked up. Not my house. Free hitting on the back line. Somebody's got to get on this there. It's a double kill for Not My House. The Chains of Corruption chaining their way through the members of Indigo. DNA finds a triple for their ADC, and they're going to look to the Baron.
Yeah, that's a 5-for-0 ace here for DNA. Definite not Aether here, trying to pick up as much value as they possibly can. They're foregoing the dragon and picking up the Baron Nashor instead. And Dunsey, for whatever reason, hooked the wall. I think he might have thought that Silas would be able to latch onto the hook there, but you know, Silas did a good job of getting back over the wall. And from that point on, he was just mispositioned. And even though Cassie has a lot of damage, he doesn't have enough sustain and reliable health resistance there to actually survive all 5 members just chasing him down. And with enough CC and enough AoE coming through from both Funsize and Beg there towards the back end of the fight, they were able to pick up the victory. But the fight is once again back towards the drag. Indigo is trying to start up this drag quickly, but they're already here.
Cassie teleporting into the 1 versus 3. He's got that spell shield on, so he'll stay alive for a little bit longer, but he's just gonna get CC down. Funsize will go down, and they find the dragon. The spike comes through and is there for Little Pistol. They'll go in a soul point, but now it's just a mad scramble to get out for the members of Indigo. The depth charge is there, stolen away by Silas. Vanilla ADC, the target, the death, triple kill for Funsize. Wants to find more. MKS, they're on the flank, looking to pick up some extra damage on into John. He's tanking the turret though, getting a little bit too low there. Quadra kill though for Funsize. Can they look for one more? No, the John standing too far away, dashing too far away. It is the dragon going over to Indigo, but it's a quadra kill for Funsize.
10-0-10 on the Silas here for Funsize. And this one, we saw a really good game at the beginning with the Akali with 4-0 start. This game reigning true, continuously putting on so much pressure at all these team fights. Basically, anyone that this Silas gets on top of is just getting absolutely one shot on repeat here by the Silas. But obviously overall they were able to get so much gold influx in the past like 2 minutes with a total of about 10 kills, a Baron, a tower. Now all of a sudden their gold lead is now influxed all the way to about a 5,500 lead here.
Yeah, I was gonna say earlier on, the difficulty with this Indigo draft now is without that Fed R, you don't really have as much backline access for Not In My House. You don't have that much burst to get on top of the Funsize, and especially the Silas has a veritable buffet of ultimates to steal. That extra healing from the Aatrox, the extra HP he gets from Little Pistol, the repositioning and the shielding that he gets from Vanilla, and the burst damage and CC from Dunsey. It's just pretty much anything a Silas could ever want. If there's a situation he needs to make happen in a team fight, he's got the option available for him. He's now 10-0-10, and if Indigo can't focus him down, can't pick up that shutdown gold, can't start to put this Silas into the dirt, this game might just be over.
Yeah, it's definitely looking a little rough here, I would say, for the side of Indigo, because, you know, obviously last game, we kind of talked about the ability to kind of just chase people down and continuously, like you would say, they'll just like kill people on repeat. I mean, DNA has that very similar composition where like Silas can just keep chaining people, thresh hooking. The orange chase down as well can always be very prevalent, and they're kind of like making it work this game. They want to take us into a game 3 for this series. This Merc making a play for top tower. Little Pistol does flash.
Flash is forward, maybe looking for some aggression on the Merc, but he's got the Sundered Sky and the Blade of the Ruin King in his inventory, so he's not exactly easy to burst down. I think just a little over aggressive from Pistol. I like the look there. You want to find something, and you think Merc is a little bit out of position, trying to make something happen, but just doesn't manage to find it that time around with some good rotates from Not In My House and from MKS.
Yeah, definitely a little ambitious, especially, I mean, Violet Bear is not going to have enough damage to just 1v1 a Viego like that, especially not with how the current state of the game is. So, unfortunately, I mean, I guess he thought that the rest of the members were able to get there in time, but so far, I mean, DNA was looking to take as much of the map as possible. Nice hook, though.
MKS finds Dunsey, the Chains of Corruption as well. This should just be a dead Nautilus. Has the flash, has the hook. He's Spider-Man. He's getting out of there. But the hook play is from MKS. Oh, where did Vanilla ADC go? He is just gone. Funsize finds the solo. You cannot disrespect the Silas damage.
Yeah, and the TP coming there from Beg, they're going to look to make as much pressure onto this tower and even the inhibitor as they possibly can here. They don't really have vanilla ADC for another 20 seconds, so this is going to be a pretty tough tower to defend, and even possibly the inhibitor as well. John has really low range on this Rise. The Wickler's just not there.
Lord God, they're going to look for some aggression on the little pistol. Goodbye, Volley Bear. They do manage to pick up something back. John finds a big shutdown goal. Cassie's in there on the front line, but Merc shuts him down with that Heartbreaker. Now has that lethality Aatrox for himself. Beg on a sliver of HP living. Dunsey trying to get in there, but doesn't manage to land the hook onto anybody. Now it's the members of DNA scrambling to get out of this situation. They found the inhibitor. They found some kills. They're happy to just run away.
Yep, happy to get away scot-free here, as well as potentially getting a reset here for the Dragon that will be spawning up in about 50 seconds or so. That's going to be the big takeaway here. Even though they have a really big gold lead, Indigo is one Dragon away from Hextech Soul, and that could be a game changer if they are able to potentially pick that one up, as both teams are looking to get out onto the map and potentially look to pick that one up in about 30 seconds or so. We do have Cassie spawning up in a couple of seconds, and even Funsize, who will be spawning up as well. John did get the shutdown onto Funsize there in that fight, so definitely kind of looking to propel the game forward with that additional 1,000 gold that he was able to pick up. But DNA is definitely in the driver's seat here at the current start of the game, but Kaiser's going to land a lot of poke here if they don't make anything happen soon.
Yeah, they do have Beg on the front line, though, who's happy to just tank up these Void Seeker. He's not feeling too stressed about the amount of damage he's taken on the Ornn. He's got that completed, upgraded Jack Show, that Unspoken Parasite in his inventory, and I don't think Indigo are even going to look for a contest here. This is the first Dragon for DNA. They really don't have to look for anything. They can just let it walk away, but they're going to TP Cassie in. They're going to try and look for a fight here. Dragon's already down to 3.5k. And Pistol get into there. He's got the Stormbreaker. He's in the pit. It's a 50-50 on the smite. Who's going to be able to take it away? It's so close. It's stolen. Little Pistol finds it for his team. But now can they win the fight off the vanilla ADC? Trying to get on the backline. Flashes away from the chains from Funsize. The healing, though, is too much for the Silence. The seal was good for IGO, but the fight is better for DNA.
Yeah, Funsize is looking potentially in the game here. Death timers are still 30+ seconds here for the side of Indigo. So even if Funsize isn't quite able to pick up the game here, I don't know if John actually has the wave clear necessary. Tries to dash forward, but he didn't have any cooldowns to actually kill Funsize.
Call of the Forge God. It should just be one lonesome little Rise versus all 5 members of DNA. Goodbye, Rise. Goodbye, Game 2. DNA, take us to Game 3.
Yeah, I like the desperation tip from Indigo, but I think if you're going to send your jungler on a full suicide mission, just let him go by himself. You don't have to take the ensuing fight afterwards, especially since your base is already in such a dangerous position. And like you said, it was also just their first Dragon of the game, so maybe they felt like, okay, if we don't get the Hextech Soul now, there's no chance we come back at all in this current state of the game. So I do kind of like the flip. I do like the fact that he kind of went for it. I mean, to be honest, Volleybear should have never got into that pit in the first place. So fairly big mistake by DNA, potentially allowing Indigo to get back in this game, but obviously winning the ensuing fight afterwards and killing the rest of the members did mean that they were able to pick up the Game 2 victory.
Yeah, managing your side lane waves is so important. We saw how Funsize at the end there just got to teleport into the base because the wave was there at Nexus turret, starting to take them down. And again, I feel like Indigo could have just let that Dragon go. And while the next Dragon fight in 5 minutes would not have been easy, you're not losing the game off that play. You're not trading soul for Nexus in that particular exchange. Again, I like the flip. I like Little Pistol getting in there and getting that steal. Fantastic for them. Taking the fight afterwards, a little bit more questionable.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate side of that equation. Whereas, like both situations are pretty bad, but I think when you have a person that's basically suiciding into a pit who's almost guaranteed going to die, winning the fight 5v4 afterwards when you're already got 6,000 gold is just slim to none at that current state of the game. So I think unfortunately for them, they did end up picking up the loss there. But once again, a great bounce back game from the DNA, especially the mid laner here for DNA here as well, with Funsize there in that game, absolutely popping off on the Silas, doing so much damage fight after fight, just completely blasting Kaisa any chance he got with the Storm Surge with the Death Cap as well. So once again, we've shown 2 games here where even though like at the first game where he was down a lot of CS, he's able to actually get a lot of kills. So like 2 games in a row where getting a lot of kills, and this game actually staying relevant in the CS department did actually mean that he was able to be very relevant in a lot of these fights and just absolutely carry the game alongside of Merc.
Yeah, it seems like Fun Size really is that snowbally do or die kind of player. We'll have to see how he's going to perform in Game 3. We're going to take a short break while we get the draft ready for that. Game 3 of DNA versus Indigo. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. We're here for the draft of Game 3 versus Indigo and DNA. Definitely not Aether. Your overlay here is lying to you a little bit. Indigo did choose to stay on the red side after that in Game 3. And it looks like the band's looking to actually change up this time around. The Toledo away from DNA and the immediate Viego ban from Indigo. They do not want to give that one to Merc.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Merc had a really solid game on the Viego. I mean, obviously, Silas kind of gets a lot of the attention due to how much damage he was doing and just the sheer amount of just burst this champion is capable of doing. But throughout the early stages of the game, the Viego was the one actually carrying a lot of the transitions into the fights where he was getting reset after reset and just like mowing through people going through. So, what this does mean, though, is that Smolder is up and available for DNA if they so choose to take that option. It has been Varus B1. Both games here for DNA, they're probably debating like, okay, if we don't take Smolder, they might take Smolder. If we take Varus, like, it's like, okay, we still got a very confident pick here for ourselves. Instead, it is going to be the takeaway here on the side of DNA. So I'm curious to see just how Smolder actually plays out in this game.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of success from Smolder, and I don't know if you've been looking at any pro play at all, like any of the CB LOL, LCK, LPL, but this champion seems pretty good, and it seems to be our sort of Zeri 2.0 in terms of pro play strength and pentakill ability, so not too shocking to see them grab that one up as the first pick. But Indigo going to make a big change up, not look for the ADC on this first pick. They're going to grab, well, I say that as they grab the Senna for themselves alongside that Xin Zhao. Not too shocking to see them grab the jungle in AD carry, just like they have been in games 1 and 2.
Yeah, I mean, the only issue with Smolder is Smolder, as the game does go on, his Q doesn't actually get any increased range besides when he builds RFC. And Senna actually outranges him as the game does go on when she gets more souls and if she gets more active in terms of like how the game does kind of go on. So even though Smolder scales very, very well with all the stacks that he gets, Senna actually does fairly well into the lane. So I do kind of like this read from Indigo saying, hey, if they pick Smolder, we can just pick the Senna. We can leave open that and take away the Viego that did so well from that previous game. Thresh here for MKS once again, kind of feeling that vibe of like, okay, like, you know, I felt really good from the last game. Gonna end up picking it here. It does kind of give Smolder a little bit of a safer lane as well with the Lantern, but the Azir that has been banned away both games so far in the second phase now rears his head in the draft.
Yeah, a little surprised to just even grab these here this early. I was wondering if they were going to go back to the Nautilus and just play Senna Nautilus, which has been so strong stylistically throughout pretty much any of the regions that you watch. DNA finally tired of Cassie's Aatrox are going to knock that one down on the ban phase. And I wonder if IGO was going to pay the Zek attacks and ban away that Akali and the Sylas, make sure they have a bit of a safer mid lane matchup for their Azir this time around. As Akali already taken away and IGO thinking that the Smolder might not actually go into the bottom lane, maybe as a potential top lane flex pick. They're going to ban away the Varus as well.
I mean, Smolder has seen action in mid lane and ADC. I guess top lane's a little bit scarcer, I would say, especially since Beg is definitely more of a tank player as well for his team. So I would imagine that's probably either Smolder for ADC or Smolder for mid, and potentially seeing like, okay, like, you know, maybe like with Varus spam, we kind of take that one away a little bit. As we all do see the Nautilus being banned away here by DNA, definitely want to give that option away as well. So we are obviously contemplating what exactly the support option will be here for Indigo, or if they want to go for a top lane option as well, if they want to kind of lead that support for R5. Anything we have Senna, the options for support become theoretically endless. You can basically play anything you want down. I mean, Senna Ornn is actually a really good lane.
You could throw the Ornn down there, or if you think that DNA is going to have a better counter pick into the Ornn support, or maybe if you think Ornn is a better matchup in top lane, you can grab something like a Tom Kench on this fifth pick. The flexibility, they're still good for Indigo if they want to keep the Senna flexible around, maybe see if she wants to be fasting or farming, or if she wants to have a normal, manageable support, or if she wants something like an Ornn. I don't personally know how I feel about the Ornn support exactly. I think the lack of XP can really be a big detriment for him, as that is a Xerath locked in for DNA in the mid lane, matching up versus the Azir. Another nice little lore matchup. You love to see it.
Yeah, not only is it a lore matchup, but it's also a matchup that Xerath just basically wins, because Azir does really good at a champs that go into him. He struggles with champs that outrange him, and Xerath has always been a very often pick thing when dealing with a champion like Azir. Does obviously struggle into champions like Ornn, like Xin Zhao, that can very easily get on top of him, but that is a Lilia top lane. Now, this is where Indigo says, hey, Ornn gets absolutely destroyed by Lilia. Like, it's not even fun, it's not even close. So this is where you say, hey, send Ornn bot lane and we'll pick something better for top lane. I hope they see it, I hope they read it and say, hey, we can just send Ornn support and he'd be fine. Like, it's a Smolder Thresh, what are they gonna do?
Yeah, there's not a lot of pressure that they're going to throw in the early game. It could also be a Volibear top and Lilia jungle if
there it is.
The top lane matchup is bad for that Lilia. So DNA still has flexibility to play around this last little bit of flex from IGO as they lock in the Mordekaiser, which great matchup versus Lilia, keeps Ornn out of that top lane. They could even run Senna Mordekaiser if they really think that the top lane is going to be that disastrous. But for now, I like what both of these teams are cooking in this game 3. They pulled out all the stops. Both teams really want to come through for this win.
Yeah, I think DNA got a little ambitious with the Lilia pick here, because Lilia is really good into tanks. She kind of struggles into just about any other top lane matchup just due to how the lane plays out. And with Mordekaiser having the Death Realm and sending Lilia to Brazil, is able to basically make sure her movement doesn't actually make a whole lot of impact in the current stages of the game. I guess in theory, it could also be Volibear top of Lilia jungle here for DNA as well, if they kind of want to go that route. But overall, I think Indigo doing a good job recognizing that Ornn could struggle into both the Volibear and the Lilia, and just sending it down into support, where even though, like you mentioned, the XP is going to be a little bit difficult, Senna can just go elsewhere and follow around Xin Zhao and follow around in the combat and get the souls, where Ornn can just stay by himself and get solo XP.
Yeah, I would love to see a farming Ornn and a fasting Senna down here for the Indigo bottom lane. I'm really excited to see where both of these drafts are going to go. I'm expecting some early game poking, maybe not a lot of early game action unless the junglers really decide they want to make something happen. Xin Zhao getting on the map early is kind of key for his kit, but looking at this Indigo draft, I'm not 100% sure where he actually goes. Ganking the Smolder Thresh is not going to be super easy. Azir until he hits level 6, not going to have a super amount of gank assist, and top lane, maybe you can catch the Lilia with Mordekaiser, but you don't have a lot of that point-click CC that's going to lock her down that you really normally counter the Lilia with. So I think Xin Zhao actually has a pretty difficult job coming through this draft.
Yeah, I think Xin Zhao's main job for the early stages of the game is just making sure Senna and Azir, who do scale very, very well in the late game, just kind of survive. Right, also applying a lot of pressure, applying the early stages of the game, making sure that they could not have any problems going through. That way, when the game is even, if it's 2 or 3 items, Azir and Senna will be applying a lot of pressure in this game. And so far, in terms of the champ select, it does look like Beg has locked in the Volibear, Merc has locked in the Lilia, so there is still a potential to change when the champions do get fully locked in, as we do see. But right now, it is the Volibear going up into the top lane.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that one works out in the top lane. Excited to see how these scraps go down in the early game. No sponsors to shout out, so we're just going to send you right to a break for game 3 of Definite Not Aether versus Indigo. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. We're here for game 3 of Definite Not Aether versus Indigo. Lots of changes in the draft this time around. Smolder finally make it through. We've got a Senna Orin in the bottom lane. We got a spicy game 3 tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Across the board for both these teams here, as champions that haven't really appeared in the draft, at least in their respective roles. We've seen the Volibear. The only team that actually is the same for either of the games is actually the Thresh coming through. So I'm curious to see kind of how this game just ended up playing out. I do kind of like the takeaway with the Ornn from Dunsey. They recognize that, okay, Beg has played the Ornn 2 games in a row. They banned away our Aatrox. So, okay, we can just take away the Ornn and be like, okay, what can you provide now that you were obviously not off the Ornn? So curious to see exactly how the spotlight does play out with Ornn being a melee champion. It does look like they are kind of doing the support tech a little bit here on the bot side, but starting with the Doran's Blade and the Doran's Shield does actually allow you to be a little bit more aggressive in lane. And since the support item is a little bit delayed, you can actually do this and not be punished by it too terribly bad, especially with the golden flex the support item actually gives you. It's pretty easy to catch back up as the game kind of progresses. So overall, I mean, both these teams kind of starting out relatively even here. Both junglers starting on the Raptors once again, 3 games in a row, I believe. It's gonna be the exact same here for both these teams. And overall, I'm not expecting a whole lot of action, really, because you got Lilia jungle, you got Xin Zhao that has 3 relatively okay scaling lanes. So honestly, unless there's action actually happening within the lanes, I would be surprised if we actually had some jungle games happen too terribly often.
Yeah, I will say for the support item changes, it is a lot nicer now for the supports who start that support item. They made it so the stacks come in a little bit faster and you start getting them a little bit sooner. So MKS should be able to get a sizable lead on the support item early. But I'm seeing actually looks like Vanilla and Dunsey are pretty much sharing the farm 1 for 1 right now. So I wonder if they are just going to decide who gets that support item on first recall, or if Dunsey maybe even picks it up on the Ornn item purchase when he hits that 400 gold marker. It'll just depend on who they want to be farming and who they want to be looking to roam around the map on.
Yeah, I mean, well, Dunsey can also just build the support item when he gets enough gold as well. So he doesn't actually have to base to actually purchase that one up. It's one of the small benefits of having Ornn as your support player. So a relatively nice change, but it does look like obviously overall lanes, not really a whole lot happening here. We do see obviously the kind of the fun interaction with Xerath and Azir, where Xerath just kind of gets to pester the Azir as much as he possibly can and try to make as many plays as possible. I'm curious, obviously, with junglers being on the opposite sides of the map, Lilia is outpacing Xin Zhao just a little bit, not too terribly a lot. Xin Zhao obviously actually going from Wolves to Gromp, so theoretically could be skipping his own blue buff here. And that bot lane is actually starting to slowly but surely maybe push away. It's a little bit stuck at the current moment, but with the mini wave going to be coming up on this next wave. And actually, Xin Zhao looks like he's going to be going through the lane as well. So this is actually a pretty good timing here for a Little Pistol. If he can maybe sneak in that second bush,
okay,
might be to make a play.
Dunsey going aggressive, but maybe just a little too early. He finds that flash in with the wind becomes lightning. Little Pistol sneaking in beautifully for a lane gang. Finds himself first blood.
Yeah, huge.
He's gonna be fine. He's got the fleet footwork, so he'll be able to stand up as well. But no mana on this Azir, I think, means there's a potential for Merc to actually just look for a dive here.
Yeah, unfortunately, Lilia probably wouldn't have enough damage without the Xerath stun coming through, because John would just be able to flash away. So I think re-guessing or second-guessing themselves on this side is probably the better decision here. Unfortunately, does end up basing right as the Raptor camp spawned and won't be able to pick that one up for themselves. But, I mean, overall, with the current state of the game, with Xin Zhao actually taking a moment to say, hey, I would actually go do the Lilia's Raptor camp, but Thresh is on the way up with Lilia on the way. This could be very dangerous for Little Pistol, who does not have flash.
Yeah, this is a great support room from MKS. Fun size is here as well. The Moon Becomes Lightning does not land onto that Xerath, so no escape for Little Pistol. Merc finds his revenge, gets to keep his Raptor camp, and gets a kill as a recompense.
Yeah, really big mistake there by Little Pistol, not recognizing that Thresh was actually capable of being on the roam there and just being like, hey, like, let's just kind of go up here on display. So unfortunately, without having flash, not able to really get out of the situation. Almost able to use the wind becomes lightning to actually connect to Xerath. If that would have landed, he would have been able to actually dash over the wall and get on top of the Xerath, but unfortunately for them, not quite able to pick that one up. As we do actually see, it is going to be the Senna who has purchased the support item, and it's not going to be the Ornn this time around. So he will be farming basically the rest of the game. Senna will be farming the items when Ornn can't really farm the item. That's typically how most Senna lanes work, where it's like, even though Senna actually does have the support item, anytime the melee champion can't actually walk up to hit it, the Senna will still kill that minion.
Yeah, the item has a decent bit of leeway for how much CS you can secure, I will say, as a support. Whether it's steal or, you know, make sure that somebody gets is up to you and up to your team. But it means that vanilla ADC should be able to farm up at least a little bit and not feel too bad, be able to stack up those support procs as well, as DNA with the push in their bottom side are going to grab that first Chemtech Dragon. But on the top side, Little Pistol again making a great trade. I think every time we've seen DNA go for this early for the early dragon, it's just been the instant grubs traded in response.
Yeah, I mean, it's also a very traditional thing where it's like, okay, like anytime you invest resources towards the bottom side or the top side retrospectively, it's almost always going to be answered on the other side of the map, just because you don't really have the numbers advantage necessary to really be able to answer on the other side of the map. So you do see a nice little hook here landing from MKS, but with Smolder being your ADC, the consistent damage just isn't quite there to really kind of punish the Ornn on that play. So is able to just kind of walk away scot-free, even though he does take a pretty major chunk of his health bar, but kind of checking in. Oh, actually, Ornn.
Death Realm with Bang. Gonna flash on top of this Volley Bear. Does have that Stormbreaker. Is gonna be able to walk himself out. In the meantime, mid lane, John getting that shuffle in, trying to get some damage down onto Fun Size, but he will just be able to flash away. And Bang actually managed to save his flash throughout that entire top lane exchange, and it's just Kazi losing ult and losing flash.
Yeah, it's actually really well done by Beg, creating just enough distance with the Stormbringer and also just be able to kiting away, where even though Kazi is actually being the one to use their flash, they are able to get away scot-free without having to use it as well. But MKS just kind of being fairly far up here, but instead they don't actually want to go for it. They don't think they can actually get on top of him, not without Ornn having that level 6. He just now hit it. I think if Ornn was level 6 there, MKS is actually probably just dead.
Yeah, that is sort of the disadvantage of that duo XP, even with vanilla ADC taking some time out of the lane. Dunsey just doesn't have that level 6 in time, so they're not able to find anything. But I do also want to point out, it's not the usual Leandry Shojin build that we see from Not In My House on this Smolder. It is going to be the Shin, which I think, to me, at the very least, says it's going to be Essence Reaver with Navori Quick Blades, going for more of the critical strike style of build, as Beg is actually fairly low under this tower. Does get a nice trade into Kazi, but looking a little dangerously low HP there. I'm getting nervous for him.
Yeah, he's definitely getting really, really low, and without having to teleport as well, Kazi's doing a really good job basically just pushing every single wave in as quickly as he possibly can. Basically saying to Beg, being like, hey, if you don't base, I will eventually kill you, but if you do base, you're just going to drop a minion wave for free. And if you look at the CS difference, right, it's already 30. Well, right, 29, sorry. Yeah. But like it's like right there where it's like, okay, like this is starting to become really, really bad for Beg up here in the top lane. And Mordekaiser is known as that champion where once he gets ahead, it's really hard to just actually stop him from taking over the game, because he can always take someone into the death realm and just permanently keep them there in a fight, whereas obviously, like, if he gets so far ahead, it's gonna be really hard for anyone to actually survive that death realm.
Yeah, and I think especially in this game, that death realm can have so much value. Just overall, keeping Merc out of potential objective fights, or making sure that Not In My House is stuck in the Death Realm alone, doesn't have that Thresh backup, or even taking the Thresh out so the rest of your team can dive on top of that Smolder. There's a lot of potential value for that Death Realm. It's just going to be on how Kazi uses it, as Not In My House is just going to burn Mom to make sure that that wave pushes in, forces it under tower, and maybe even forces Vanilla ADC and Dunsey to stick around, because if they don't, there's going to be potential loss of tower platings here. They're just going to use that Call of the Forge God to make sure that that wave does not crash fully.
Yeah, it's a trade of ultimates here on the side of the bot lane here, and I do like the initial use of Mom coming through from Smolder, basically saying like, hey, like, we have a great way of just clearing the wave while also stopping their base. It's actually a really good usage of Mom's ult if you're ever in a situation where you're playing Smolder and solo queue, where you're like, okay, like, even though it's like, you know, Mom's a very good ability, like, it's very, very long range where you can just deal a lot of damage while also like stopping someone that is very, very far away. So as Dunsey was able to use the top lane, sorry, not top lane, TP to get back to the bot lane here on the bottom side of the map. So you see Beg once again trying to go for a trade a little bit, but Kazi just doesn't really take any damage when he has the ability to proc his W shield. You see once again going for those grubs here on the side of Indigo here. Gonna be able to get 6 grubs. They didn't quite get 6 grubs last game, but Merc looking for a play.
Is here. MKS has rotated up. Now they're going to pull that Lily out of there. The sleep is on to 1. The Crescent Guard keeping Little Pistol alive. There's that shovel to get in. Pistol surviving with a sliver of HP. Has a flash away from the Stormbringer from Beg. Kaz is still holding on to that death row. Will pull the volley in. Grab those extra stats. Nice sidesteps from Little Pistol to keep away from the Ready Arcade. It's a double kill for Kazi. Merc forced to run away. Fine Size is going to get that blast code over the wall. He will be able to survive for now as John and Vanilla ADC are here on the rotate. That extra Zerpo coming in through. Vanilla ADC finds that last hit, and they're going to be able to net themselves that last grub as well. It's a great fight from Indigo.
Yeah, it's a huge swing of the game, and this is kind of the benefit of Red of having just the Orin being down here by himself. I mean, Orin does not care one bit about Smolder's damage down here at the early stages of the game. He is able just to kind of keep on farming, keep on being by himself, and with Senna being the one to roam up, not only does he get the extra additional souls from the grubs, but you also get the extra souls from being in combat phase. So really well done by Indigo, picking up so much gold there, and I think Merc just went really, really deep in that fight initially, had to instantly use the Lantern to get out, and also they didn't really play the fight out super slow. Xerath is great when team fights are played slow, where he can dictate the pace of the fight, just continuously poking people down. But Azir able to get in, land a semi-okay shuffle, wasn't super great, was able to get a slight push, but overall the rest of the members from DNAs had to really overextend themselves just to even get the fight going, and that's where, I mean, Indigo's composition does really, really well, but obviously now transitioning over towards this dragon with not really having a lot of members in the area, just gonna have to give this one away. But it is still the first dragon of the game for Indigo, so it doesn't really mean all that much of the grand scheme of things. But overall, Indigo, even though they have a great scaling team and they have the gold advantage at the close to 3K at the 12-minute mark.
Yeah, it's kind of the problem that I was saying in game 1 for Indigo. When they had this poke Kai'Sa, they felt like they were trying really, really hard to just dive into fights and to play super aggressively, which if you're having a normal AD Kai'Sa who can just dive onto the backline and start like consistently laying down auto attack damage, it's great, but you're playing with a poke champion. You have to wait for them to land some of these abilities to really get that value out of their kit before you take the fights in earnest. And like you said, with his fun size on the Xerath, it's a very stylistically different style of champion that he has been playing over the course of this series, and it means that he has to play, and especially his team has to play very differently when they have this particular pick. Beg is just taking obliterates over and over again on this top side. As we see a trade here from the mid and jungle. Vanilla ADC does take up that Swirl Seed. It's a nice 2-man sleep with the Crescent Guard and the Dawning Shadow. Means that there's just no threat on either Little Pistol or on Vanilla ADC.
Yeah, I don't really think they had a lot of damage either to really kind of make a play happen there. But I do want to give everyone an update. It's on the stream of actually, real quick, Beg is probably just dead.
Yeah, Stormbreaker get away from the pull, but Kazi just has the damage, has that Ryless active. It's just so much damage. You were about to give us an update on the Smolder stacks.
Yeah, to me, the update on the Smolder, he's currently sitting at 120 stacks, and it's 13 minutes into the game. Which basically means he's just been absolutely beating up on this Orin and the mini-win the entire time. He's probably on pace to get his fully sold 225 stacks at around the 20-minute marker.
Yeah, for Smolder, we were discussing this actually on the AEL a little while ago. For Smolder, the stack count that he gets is a little deceptive, as in the early game, getting from that 0 to 25 is a real slog, super slow. Once he gets that 25, a little bit faster, the AoE helps him pick up a couple of extras, but once he gets past that 125 and unlocks the AoE on the back, getting those little bounces that come off the end of it, that's when he can really start to accelerate in terms of his stack scaling. So that journey from 125 to 225 is a lot shorter than it seems.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, at this point in the game, with basically being solo in the bot lane against the Ornn, with the Thresh kind of being around him, I mean, he's sitting nice and pretty at the current state of the game. Even though the rest of the map is kind of folding around, like being basically like it's a 70 CS lane, the top lane, right? That is like abysmal. But Smolder's doing really good for themselves.
Yeah, he's past that 125 now. He's got the little bluffs of AoE Dragonfire off the back of that as MKS will find a hook onto Dunsey, but I don't think he's feeling too threatened currently. Not in my house. Is just going to throw some autos into his back, but it's just for stack game, if anything else. As hang on, he takes a couple of tower shots. Dunsey actually wants to look for something here. The Call of Fortune is on to 2. Can he find the damage on the Not My House? Is going to force the flash out, ignited down. Dunsey is under his tower, though. In the 1 versus 3, he's actually going to be able to walk this one out. He'll lose a tower, but he'll keep his life.
Yeah, but unfortunately even for Not In My House, just not realizing that he actually had the red buff on him while he was hitting the Ornn under the tower, which basically meant that he was obviously not able to get the tower. But Funsai is being chased down.
Fancy footwork manages to get away from every single bit of CC there. The shuffle from John, the grab back from Kazi, the grasp from Senna, just absolutely nothing landing onto the Xerath.
Yeah, and it really big that he did that as well. Because if he does die there, I think they just lose the mid lane tower. They have the Herald, they have the damage from both the Zir and all that stuff. But Beg,
he cannot be walking up here. Stormbringer down, but he still gets rooted up at the end. He's going to be forced to lose his flash. And this top lane matchup has been so rough. We mentioned in the draft that Beg really looked proficient on the Ornn, and he was able to play pretty well when he had that champion. But now with it picked away from him, he's really struggling on this Volibear pick, and with the Mordekaiser counter, it feels like they just have such free access as Pistol is getting engaged on in the jungle with a teleport in from Dunsey to actually support his jungler. John is here as well, but with the poke and with the kite away, looks like they're just going to walk out right to the Arcane. Onto John, 3rd shot, 4th shot, can't find the damage. John will survive. 5th shot doesn't land, so it will just be John walking away from that play. I forget that it's not 3-4-5, it's 3-5-7. There's so many shots coming out of this champion.
Yeah, they did buff that fairly. I can't remember exactly when they buffed it, but I'm kind of glad they did because it actually makes his ultimate be a real menace in these late game team fights as Little Pistol tries to go on top of Merc, but with the movement speed able to get away. But yeah, so far, if it wasn't for the domination that has been happening up here in the top of the current state of the game, Mordekaiser has a 2,500 gold individual gold lead over the Volibear, just absolutely just curb stomping this guy up in the top lane. If that gold lead wasn't there, if you're DNA, you're saying, hey, we've got Xerath scaling, Smolder's already almost to his 225 where he gets to execute, we actually have a pretty legitimate chance, but with the Mordekaiser diff up in the top side, it's going to be pretty hard to manage this game.
Yeah, just a minor correction to myself. It isn't 3-5-7, it's 4-5-6. They buffed him with an extra number of shots on each time around as the sleep is going to land on a 2 from Merc, but nobody's really in range to follow up on that. So with no Lily ulti, I'm not sure how they are going to try and get into this Dragon Pit. Mom comes over the top. They're looking for the Dragon, but it's just a spike coming through from Little Pistol. Now Merc forced to run away. The exhaust coming through from Dunsey off of that unsealed spellbook, and what looked like it could have been a pretty massive fight, it's just everybody walking away. Nobody really goes down.
Yeah, unfortunately, the committal tools and the ability to actually get on top of people isn't really quite there. But with the rotation over quicker for Indigo, they are going to chunk this tower. And with the Herald charge, it is going to be the mid lane tower being taken here. I don't believe they can actually stop this from crashing.
Knocks that one down. They do pick up that turret, and Not My House still getting stacks off of the back half of this. You can see that, again, once he's unlocked that 125 AoE, the stacks come through just so quickly, but it's going to be a matter of, is he actually going to be online in time? He is at 182, so like you said, in line to get to that 225 at just around the 20-minute mark. But with the lead in this top lane, I feel like if Smolder ever becomes a problem, Kazi's just going to flash on top of him, send him to the death realm, and Smolder on his lonesome versus the Lord of Death, I don't think is a comfortable matchup for him.
No, I definitely don't think so. And Kazi's actually looking to make that one a thought right now and Not In My House's head as he just have to wrap around.
He can potentially fly over the wall, but a nice interrupt off of that grasp. Dunsey with a knock-up and finds the last hit. A good punish onto the Smolder.
Yeah, good punish indeed, but he has purchased his second item as well, so he's actually starting to really get to a point where it's like, okay, this shipping will do some really serious damage, so Indigo's gonna have to be, fairly careful with their decision-making, be like, hey, we can't just let this game go on for, 25, 30 minutes, because, the more and more Smolder stacks he gets, the bigger the Q explosion gets, the bigger the execute becomes, everything just gets worse and worse for the enemy team, but they do have great scaling of their own. They have Azir scaling, they have Senna scaling with the soul stacking coming through, which she is currently sitting at about 68, which is not super great, but it still obviously will be kind of getting higher and higher as the game does go on. So Indigo will have to be fairly, confident in terms of the decisions that they do make and don't want this game to really go on forever, because even though they have great skill themselves, Smolder with the AD build does scale really, really well.
Yeah, speaking of that AD build, I'm not 100% sure I like the second item here for Not in My House. I think if you're going to go the Essence Reaver, you should commit to that full crit style. You should be building things like the Lord Doms, like the Navori Quick Blades, and just fully index onto that crit scaling from your Q. If you want to go to Shojin, I think the better build really is that Leandri's Riftmaker Frozen Fist kind of build, where you are playing more for that W and Q cooldown as opposed to just like Q and auto attacks. I don't really like this indexing sort of halfway into both, but I'm interested to see how much damage Not in My House can really get down in these team fights. As, like you said, 2-item Smolder, the AD scaling is really good for him. As, hang on, right to the Arcane from the fun size. He's got a lot of damage on a vanilla ADC. That is one ultimate on one champion. He does a hell of a lot of damage, but in the meantime, Kazi walking into the 1 versus 4 with confidence. I think he flashed forward to force a flash out of fun size and just feeling ridiculously powerful on this Mordekaiser.
Yeah, I mean, the Mordekaiser can take anybody to the death row at this point and just absolutely beat them up at a 1v1. I don't really think anyone can really survive. Maybe Lily can survive with just her pivot speed and dodging out Mordekaiser's abilities, but other than that, if he ever grabs Smolder or Xerath especially, will absolutely just get blasted in that death row. I'm sitting on 2.5 items. You know, obviously has the Riftmaker Raleig's combination where the constant damage coming through with the passive that he has. It's just going to be so much damage here at the state of the game. And with the Baron being spawned up at 21 minutes, I wouldn't be surprised if Indigo at some point just say, hey, we're going to start up the Baron, and when Lily gets close, I'm just going to click her, and we'll be able to smite the objective. You won't actually have the smite available. So I'm curious to see what exactly their plan is going to be for kind of honestly speeding up this game, right? Because right now, Smolder is seven stacks away, which this minion wave will give Smolder the 225, and we're only at the 21-minute marker. And really, I mean, Indigo's composition is like, okay, like we like to scale, but Smolder has now ticked over to 225 stacks and now has that burn effect.
Yeah, I do worry for the ability of Indigo to actually force an objective like the Baron. As ever since this new season has started, Baron has become like a real objective, a real actual boss on the map for League. And with all of the poke that this DNA composition has, the Volibear Lightning, Lilia just throwing in constant Swirl Seeds, and Xerath and Smolder being, well, Xerath and Smolder, they do a lot of poke and have a lot of damage in their kits. And if you take too long on that Baron, if you are indecisive with how you want to either flip the objective or turn around and look for a kill, this team will poke you down and will force you away and might even just be able to steal a free Baron for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I do like the fact that Riot did change that, where they actually made Baron a legitimate monster and not just a purple worm that anybody can walk up to and actually just kill at any point. So I do think that with it being a lot more of a prevalent being in the game, you're right. It does take a lot longer to do. It also deals a lot more damage. So definitely a lot more prevalent of a threat. But with the third dragon being picked up here for Indigo, that does mean top lane is a little bit vulnerable in terms of being exposed. But lots of members are already rotating up here on the side of Indigo with the Ornn and Azir. They're looking to make a play here. They do have the Call of the Force God that can very easily come down on their forehead.
Oh, Forge God, like you said, coming through fun sides will manage to sidestep it, but you're on the wrong side of the map, my friend. He's going to look to get some damage down onto John, but I do not think the Xerath will be escaping for much longer as he gets his revenge. As a nice 2-man sleep from Merc might be able to make him escape. Vanilla ADC.
Lantern!
And you want the Lantern? No, he can't! The Dawning Shadow does not find his mark! Merc manages to escape with his life this time around.
Here's the Baron startup, though, potentially.
Yeah, that Baron is looking juicy for the members of Indigo. They know Merc is super low HP, and while Lilia does have sustain, he's just on the ground.
Huge damage.
Comes through for the poke. That's Rose's coming into the pit. This is the poke.
Oh, no,
Not in My House. Oversteps his bounds. The shuffle into the pit. Goodbye, Smolder. Little pistol picks that one up. Now Bangs here in the front line. Dunzy trying to force him away. Kazi has teleported into the fight. He's looking to pull the death row onto somebody, but with the box, he should just be forced away. It's a nice turnaround for Indigo. They do slow down their Baron take, but they're going to look to try and turn
Xerath has TP. Xerath can't join this fight if he wants to do so, so I think they're actually going to call it off. Azir isn't the healthiest. Actually, they're going to restart it up. Azir's going to base and TP back, most likely, if he is basing here. Xerath is on the way. Only about 10,000 gold here. Azir's not TPing yet. He's kind of contemplating, okay, like, where do I actually TP in here?
Yeah, we have it down to 8k. Where's the teleport ward for Azir? How can he actually get into this pit? He's there on the max. He's running in now. And yeah, all this poke, like you were saying earlier, how do you take an objective in the face of this DNA composition? If you can't pick off the Xerath and the Smolder at the same time, you're never taking this Baron.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really tough. And with some base cancels here as well, it does look like the mid tower is actually going to be under threat here for Indigo here. They might actually just straight up lose their mid one tower. Merc going a little far. Does have Lantern.
Somebody's got to start warding these lanterns, please. It's the counterplay that you have against the Thresh. And the MKS doing a great job of having these lanterns be available for the team, but you guys have wards for a reason. Please just use them.
Yeah, unfortunately, well, fortunately for Merc, able to have that lantern on the back end, they're able to survive that play. But the Dragon, obviously, Dragon being a potential play here in about 2.5 minutes time, but it is still just a Cloud Soul that really is only good for like maybe Mordekaiser.
Yeah,
that's like. Yeah, I mean, everyone else doesn't really actually use Cloud Soul all that well on the side of. For Indigo here, so a soul that's not super prominent. So he's trying to use the Ornn ulti.
MKS getting engaged on. He's got that brittle on. Do they have enough damage? Mama's going to come through to dissuade the poke. The damage coming through. Vanilla ADC is forced to flash away from these Red of the Arcane shots. He will manage to sidestep them all, but now Dumpty, the one in trouble, getting engaged on the Donny Shadow is going to give him enough shield to stay alive. Kazi now is full bag into the death row. This Volibear is fairly tanky, though. I don't think Kazi has the damage. He's going to be stuck in a 1 versus 5 when he gets out of this. Does manage to get the walk away. Not My House, getting some shots into his back to get a little bit of extra damage. John wants in the 2 minutes to rim is shuffle, but it's just going to be hopped over the wall. Not My House trying to get the trade down. He's got the lantern out. He survives. Merc finds John on the front of the plate, but he can't get the Lilting Lullaby off before he dies. And it's 2 kills going over to Indigo. Smolder trying to cut it out, trying to get some extra damage, but it's a 1 for 2 in favor of Indigo.
Yeah, I mean, this game, by the way, is 2-10, and the fights are this close. You would think the kill score would actually be a lot closer, but with the scaling coming through of the Smolder and the Lilia, these fights are actually fairly close. I mean, we talk about obviously John getting into the back line, landing a fairly good scoop, but Beg able just to ulti back over the wall and gain enough distance, and John actually ends up paying for it with his life. Overall, it is just a 1 for 1.
Yeah, TNA managing to get something back off the end of that, at least, and Merc picking up both those kills, I think, is fairly good for them. It's not obviously the priority target of the Smolder or the Xerath getting that gold, but it's not the Volibear and it's not the Thresh, so it's an outcome that you can be happy with. And like you said, the scaling for TNA is coming online. They're starting to really be active in this game. With Senna going to lethality build, she's not going to scale as hard as a normal crit AD Senna normally would. Ornn is going to scale fairly well, but how do you, like we were saying earlier with the Baron, how do you take objectives in the face of this DNA composition? How do you actually make team fights work when you're losing all of your HP before the fight even starts from the Smolder's mom and from that Xerath ulti?
Yeah, exactly. When you see another usage here of it, we're probably going to send it back to half HP here. Actually, even lower. Oh my, down to 1.
Mom's coming through, but it's not going to be in range. Vanilla ADC has the sidestep. He will be able to walk away from it. Yeah, Vanilla ADC, again, he's going to have the red buff and the Q sustain, so he will be able to make himself through. Vanilla ADC does have, like, the lethality does scale on that Q healing, so it is pretty good at keeping him alive. As you can see, he's already back up to near full HP with 1 more.
Here we go.
Full. Now we have the 5 versus 5. Dunsey trying to get some damage down. Cassie's going to pull Merc into the death realm. Just take that 1-man Lilting Lullaby. Oh, that obliterate does so much damage. The soul will come through. Cassie will find this soul of Merc as well. Beg is forced to try and get away from this play. The poke back actually cancels the lantern beautifully. Pistol trying to get some damage. You see Funsize over the wall trying to get some poke down, but it might just be too little too late. John's in with the shuffle on and 2. He finds MKS and not My House. Pulls them into his team and he says, not in my house, you mean my house. Pulls them in, gets a double kill for himself. Funsize is forced to run away. Dunsey's gonna knock him down. Vanilla ADC should just be gifting this kill. It's an ace for Indigo, and they're finally gonna be able to turn to Baron.
Yeah, and they did exactly the thing I said they were going to do a little bit later. So they're just going to start the objective. Kazi's just going to point and click Lilia and say, hey, this objective is ours. There's nothing you can even do about it anymore. But they tried to stay a little bit after for the fight. I think they felt like, okay, like if we just kite backwards, we can kill them with this composition. But unfortunately for them, they just couldn't quite gain enough distance away. A full ace there and a nice sweep from the back end there by John, able to secure the fight completely, and now they have an absolute massive gold lead.
Yeah, Kazi with a monster performance on this Mordekaiser so far. 4-0-5. Nearly 100 CS over his lane opponent. He's got 3.5 items in his inventory. He's feeling so confident to just be able to step forward and say, hey, you're in my realm now. This is my Summoner's Rift. I own this map. And you can see the taxes are starting to be paid for DNA. The QSS there for Lilia and for Smolder, but at At the same time, that's 2,600 gold out of the pockets of DNA that's not going towards their poke damage. That's not going to make them any tankier.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I will say, even though the gold is definitely getting bigger and bigger here for the side of Indigo, you can't quite forget about just how strong Smolder actually is. Currently sitting at 311 stacks. So this champion will keep on doing a lot of damage as this game does go forward, but I think the tankiness of Dunsey and even Kazi, even if you're able just to blow the QSS from the Smolder, he is still fairly short range, so he can't just always just walk up and Q poke the Azir or the Senna. So if he's hitting the Ornn, he should be able to hit just about anybody else that's behind, that's able to hit just about anybody else behind them. So the threat, the pressure and the bot lane here being applied. Here comes the call of Forge God.
Forge God, Dunsey wants in. He finds a knock up on the two. Can they find an engage off that fight? Bags on the front line. Pretty tanky on this volley bear. They don't want to go all in just yet under tower. They're just letting the waves be clear. There's not a lot that Indigo can really do. The counter siege from this DNA composition is really good. I do want to say, you were mentioning in the draft that for Smolder's range, the only real way he has to like fix that problem for himself is the rapid fire cannon for the extra range on his Q, so he has a little extra poke, but he's not opted for it yet. With the Shojin in inventory and what I'm assuming is going to be a Navori quick plate soon after, if he gets the rapid fire cannon, it's not until 4 items, and this game might not even make it that far. And maybe if he gets to that point, he can start to poke back, but for now, he's sort of just stuck hitting the minions and praying that he can get some of those procs onto those backliners.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's basically going to be using the Q on the Ornn or on the Mordekaiser and hoping that it bounces to the Azir and the Senna and most of the fights and how they're going to go. So that's basically what Not in My House is basically praying for at this point, and really on the side of DNA here. That's what they're banking on. That's the reason why Smolder is currently the ADC in this game. If it was like maybe any other ADC that was 0-3. But okay, this game's over. 10,000 gold lead, like 2-15. Like there's no shot. But Smolder actually makes this a relatively okay, not okay, but comebackable. Yeah, it's better than like other ADCs would be in a normal situation. But I do think that the tankiness of Kazi and even the Ornn, like, it does actually allow them just to kind of face tank Smolder's damage and hopefully buy enough time for Azir and Senna just to do the rest of the work.
Yeah, I think for now, it's just a matter of Indigo waiting on these last couple of Ornn items. Dunsey is level 15, has thrown out a few of those upgrades. The Nasher's gift for John. I don't remember what the Leander's item upgrade is called, but he's got that one for Caxi as well. I'm trying to remember. I don't remember all the Ornn item upgrades off the top of my head. I don't know if Little Pistol and Vanilla ADC actually have items that are upgradable right now. Maybe Yomu's has an upgrade if it still does after its mythic removal status, but I'm fairly certain Little Pistol does not.
I think, well, Leandry's is called Leandry's Lament. That's the full name for the Leandry's, but I don't actually know if he has the Ornn item either, but it does look like he is upgrading Senna's item, so there is an item on Senna that does upgrade. If he is ever going to stop still, yeah.
Just needs to stand still. I'm assuming it's the Yomu's upgrade if they haven't removed that one. No, it's actually Opportunity.
Yeah. Opportunity becomes Certainty, which is pretty funny, actually.
I will say, no matter what we have to say about Riot in terms of like balancing or design, as I might have to put that on pause as there's a big flank here. Dunsey has that call of the Forge God looking for Not in My House to try to get on the backline. Dunsey with a huge knockdown. And with no carry for DNA, this fight is just over. MKS will die. Mercus on the run. Little Pistol is slashing after him to try and get aggressive onto him as well. They're just chasing down the poor deer. Take her out back with a shotgun. It's a triple kill for Vanilla ADC. Dunsey's on the front line, still tanking up Bang and Fun Size for fun. Fun Size gets hit by that root, and Cassie's coming over from the side. I think this Xerath is not much longer for his world. Vanilla ADC goes dominating. Unofficial Quadra for him. Give him the unofficial Penta kill for Vanilla ADC.
And we just talked about obviously those ADC items changing from opportunity to certainty. And the moment they killed Smolder, it was a certainty that the game was going to be ending shortly after here, with the Nexus exploding as Indigo picks up another match victory here, improving themselves to 4-1, keeping themselves right up there at the top with the Kuma Scimitars.
Yeah, really big deal for them to find this win. And again, a little bit messier than we were hopefully expecting for them in this series. We were talking about in the interim that this was not exactly the clean 2-0 that they were hoping to pick up this week, dropping a game when they were already only dropping 2 overall throughout all of their series doesn't feel great, but I think it also shows that this DNA composition and these DNA players, even on a game where they have not their full roster, not everybody's in their main positions, they can still fight. This is a great team, and I think their record really doesn't belie how strong this team actually is.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, especially with the fact they were using 3 players that weren't their initial or not necessarily initial roster, but 3 players that were not where they initially were starting for their actual roster. Goes to show like they can be fairly competent players in this league here. And but I think for Indigo, like you mentioned, not quite having as dominant of a performance they'd like to show as they keep kind of working towards being a higher seed for playoffs and kind of keeping that momentum going. But still, nonetheless, very, very strong showing in terms of kind of keeping a cool mental, not letting the game 1 get them where they were so far behind. In game 2, obviously, they ended up losing that game. They could have been easily been like, okay, well, we had 2 really rough games. Like, we kind of didn't really super play that well. Game 3, really, really clean. They obviously, the only thing they had potentially going for them was that smolder. Okay, like, once we kill this guy, the game is absolutely over. And once they did that, it definitely was just an absolute GG's and really well done by Indigo. I don't know why I said that 3 times.
Yeah, I do think it was a good showing from both sides. DNA, unfortunately, not able to get the win on the day. Congratulations to Indigo for their 2-1. We're going to take a short break, but when we come back, we're going to have an interview with one of the winning members of the Indigo side. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. We're here with the man, the myth, the legend, the one you've all been waiting for, Kazi, after a successful win over DNA. How you feeling tonight, Kazi?
I'm grinning from ear to ear right now. I'm happy to be here. I love all you guys in the chat. Thank you guys so much for support. Couldn't do it without you guys. This is for you guys. Just happy I was able to show what I can do, especially what we can do as a team in the last game, show them what we can actually do instead of messing around those first 2 games, doing things that were unnecessary, and just, giving a clean response to anyone who doubted us, and just showing to ourselves that when we want to perform, we can.
Yeah, I was going to say, game 2 maybe looking a little rough for you guys, and especially with DNA, not having everybody that they normally have on their starting roster. Not maybe the clean 2-0 that you guys were expecting and the one that you wanted to come out with, but it sounds like you guys were at least having a lot of fun with it. So the Mordekaiser and the Aatrox picks, I'm assuming these were prepared picks for you and stuff that you were just like very comfortable on, because it looked like you were just absolutely stomping in the top side.
Yeah, I just want to say good game to the other guy. He tried his best. I think he was filled, but he was trying his best. Top main, obviously, I was having a very comfortable lane on those bruisers, being able to have a priority for the grubs for most of those games. Just trying to help where I can. We made some unfortunate mistakes across the map, but I was able to get a lot of damage off, try to keep my impact as big as I could. Made some mistakes, TPs here and there, that kind of thing. But yeah, definitely enjoy those champions, and I really enjoy that I have the trust from my teammates to, to be able to say, like, let me pick some solo queue garbage like Mordekaiser, and let's put it into effect into this game. And they said, you know what, do your thing. That's your champion. And I think I showed what I can do on it after they were able to give me that trust.
Yeah, I was just going to say as well, obviously, going into that third game where you had a fairly rough game 1, game 2, you actually ended up losing that game outright. Going into game 3, in terms of like the pure dominance that you were showing up in the top side, at one point, I think CS League grew up to like 100 plus CS Flame horizoning the Volibear on the top side of the map, even though there was no jungle attention really from your jungler the entire series coming through. So like, what's it like just knowing that your team is so confident in your own ability that you're able just to get leads completely by yourself?
Well, I need to repay their trust in the way that I provide impact in the game. So there were points in that last Mordekaiser game where I said, you know what, Zinzao, take that wave, don't freeze it for me, you need it more than me. I'm rich, we need to make sure everybody's doing well, everybody's ahead. Just trying to, take things where I can take advantages, moving around the jungle, just literally maximizing the damage that I can do, whether it's on champions, whether it's on anything. Just go around, take camps, just cause as much chaos, frustrate these guys as much as possible. I was able to land a couple good E's, like the one on the Lilia, and one of those closing fights, get her out of the fight completely, kill her with 2 Qs, whack her, make the game easy for the rest of the guys. So, yeah, I want, again, everybody to have the resources they need. If that means we need to gank mid lane more one game, if that means we need to gank bot, those guys are also willing to be the weak side for me if I need support. So it's just, I think the trust system overall that we have established is just, it's not perfect, as we've shown. Sometimes we mess up in game, but hopefully we can eliminate those mistakes and look as fearsome as we can moving forward into the playoffs.
Yeah, speaking of moving forward into the playoffs, this win does secure you guys 4-1 and potentially puts you in contention to look to take away first place. And with your game record, it's looking like it's very likely. How do you guys feel moving into what is the final week of the regular season and then afterwards moving into the playoffs?
We're definitely confident. I think the start of the split was definitely a bit more smooth for us. We need to make sure we never get complacent and make sure, when we take those L's, we don't get tilted. I'd bounce back. We need to win this series. We need to believe that we're better than these guys if we are going to be better than these guys. So looking towards the playoffs, we need to look at some of those big boys in the league. I'm not going to name any names. I don't need to. Just say, you know what, we're not afraid of you. We are going to play our best. We're going to keep improving. We're going to learn the meta. We're going to watch all the changes. We're going to make the optimal team comps that we can to dominate the map every game, try to end games quickly, and show individually our talent.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's all you can really ask of yourself and your team as you do progress forward into that playoff stage. And I know you mentioned some of the higher, I guess, opponents of the leagues going through, but I guess transitioning from, since you've basically secured your spot going through, I guess, into the qualifiers and the playoffs and stuff like that, what are you guys looking to do in terms of making sure that you guys are the best possible team that you can be going into the last little bit of the season and trying to carry that momentum going to see just as far as you can go going into the playoffs?
I I think the passion that everybody shows is evident, and we just need to make sure that translates into results and into keeping continuity and practice in scrims. Again, like I said, making sure that we're aware of all the changes in the meta, what doesn't work here, what doesn't work there. Kasante's not the god pick anymore. Oh no, top lane's going to shake up. We need to learn something else. So, yeah, just making sure our heads are in the game, making sure we're getting in the practice, whether that comes through solo queue, whether that comes through scrims, whether that comes through doing with one another, practicing with my sensei, the GOAT, shout out, Semenosuke, best top laner there is. Yeah, we want to apply ourselves as much as we can and become, or I guess, maximize our own potential.
Yeah, fantastic to hear. Again, good luck for you guys going into the playoffs, and congratulations on your win here tonight. That's going to be it for us on the broadcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Kazi, again, congratulations on your win. Chat, thank you all so much for joining us. We heard you, we see you, we know you're there. Our producer, Wookie Monster, in the back, making sure everything goes smoothly here. Ryan, do you have any last thoughts before we send them off?
No, I don't think so. I was just going to ask, Kazi, if you have any final shout-outs, anything you final want to say as we do into the broadcast?
Shout out all of my teammates individually. Shout out the coach again, Sam. Shout out all the boys back home. Shout out all the boys in chat. All the boys in the CCI in-house server. Love you guys. That's my home. Hashtag Indigo, and we hope to keep performing for you guys.
Love to hear that. Thank you all so much for joining us. That's going to be it on broadcast for us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us for the game between DNA and Indigo. Take care. Have a good night.
Thank you.